Hi, everyone, and welcome to High Scores, High Stakes Game of the Month Club. The first one
Oh.
ever. It's a spin off, and hopefully, it's better than Joey. Cardinal looks like he wants to say something.
Joey?
I
What?
don't think he gets that reference.
Mate.
Friends did a spin-off with Matt LeBlanc, and it was just called
Oh,
Joey, and it was
Friends is
terrible. It ran.
stupid.
Yeah, Friends is the worst. Yeah, but we're not here to talk about Friends. We're here to talk about games that were played last month.
Yes.
5 seconds we got off topic.
Look at that.
I vote restart.
No. This is all good. This is all good. Let's just
All
keep rolling.
top content. Okay, so Game of the Month Club, what is it?
What is
Essentially,
it?
the elevator pitch is this. Every month, we pick a game, we play it, and at the end of that month, we're going to deep dive it. So, this month, the game is Metal Gear Solid. The
Metal
game.
Gear.
Metal Gear.
Just start with an easy one, won't we?
Yes. If anyone wants to know what February's game of the month is, then guess what? You can just stick around and we will announce it at the end of this episode. So, Metal Gear Solid, then. The PS1 classic released on PlayStation in September the 3rd, 1998.
What a
And there
year.
it is, as modeled
Fantastic.
by Tomahawk. Metal Gear Solid obviously got critical acclaim when it was released, and it is sitting at a 94 on Metacritic, which is mega. Absolutely
It's up
mega.
there.
Very much
Incredible.
up there.
Incredible review score. So before we start talking about the game, before we start deep diving the game, tell me, gentlemen, we'll start with you, Cardinal. Your first experience with Metal Gear, talk to me about it.
My first experience? Oh my goodness. Right, so this thing launches, it's 1998. I'm busy playing Team Fortress or something stupid on the PC. Then I go down to Extravision. Boom, Metal Gear. Oh, I gotta get this. £3? We'll do it. We'll do it. 3 or 4 days, the weekend, and we go. Completed it twice. Got a bandana. Changed my life. Uh, I got a literal bandana. Uh, Not just a bandana you get at the end of the game.
A Metal Gear Solid bandana, just
That's
Yeah, started
incredible.
talking different. Well, but it was just fantastic. It was totally different in a sort of cinematic, kind of weird but brilliant way.
yeah,
Loved it.
yeah. What about you, Tomahawk? First experience with Metal Gear. Talk to me about it, mate.
First experience. So, as you know, we grew up in Nintendo household, so I had to rely on my cousin to come down to our house with the PlayStation. And he had Metal Gear Solid, and my first experience basically is watching the whole thing. And any time a moment where he's like, "Oh, like Tom, do you want to jump on?" So I'd play a little bit, and I distinctly remember the one bit that I have is when you're talking to the Secretary of Defense, and then Snake just sits there and goes, "You bastard." And then my parents walked in and go, "What is this game? Why is this got?" And then basically I had to sit and watch all the game, reading the codec as dialogue. So for most part of my adult life, I didn't really know what was going on in that final segment, really. So
I love that. I love the way you've only discovered it in Game of the Month Club January 2024 that Metal Gear Solid had voice acting.
do you know
That was
what?
like a
It was
SNES
just
Final Fantasy game, just reading
it was
text.
just one of those moments where I think in the childhood panic, you sit and you go X, and you think, oh, they'll just skip it. Most games, I have to just skip to the next sort of
Mm.
dialogue bit, and they're still talking. No, it just they mouth. Nothing comes. No audio comes out, and you just have to sit there and read the dialogue. So it kind of loses a bit of its gravitas,
Yeah,
especially at that
ugh.
part of the game.
Yes. Yes, it does. Well, my memories of Metal Gear, obviously me being older than you two gentlemen, but just by a wee bit.
Gramps.
Just by a wee bit.
He's the creative. He's the creative director. That's who he is.
I remember Metal Gear Solid before it even came out because I remember the official PlayStation magazines um, hyping the absolute life out of Metal Gear Solid. I remember not seldom a month went by when there wasn't like a screenshot or like a little snippet of what was going on with that game. And I remember reading about it. And then suddenly, the month before it came out, I think it must have been August 98, the cover for PlayStation, the cover disc for the PlayStation magazine was Metal Gear Solid. which was about the first half an hour of the game. So you got the docks and you got the helipad areas, and then the demo ended. But I remember playing through that demo. I don't even know how many times. I was blown away by it. I had never seen a game like it, and it was just incredible. And then when it came out, when it was released, like Cardinal, it was a wee extra vision job. Went down £3 for the weekend. Absolutely blasted it through. It was incredible. My memory of the renting it. Please tell me you did this as well, Cardinal. Contact Meryl Snake. Her Kodak is on the back of the cover, and I'm like, well, this is tricky because I don't have it. So I did what any 14-year-old, 15-year-old would do. I picked up the house phone and I rang Extravision and I spoke to the bloke behind the counter and went, "Hear me, what's Meryl's Kodak code?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, give me it over the phone." There we go. That's how I progressed the story of Metal Gear.
To our
Outstanding.
non-UK listeners, Extravision is basically Blockbuster.
Yeah,
It's not as good.
better. Stuck around a lot longer. But
I
yeah.
didn't see
Well.
Meryl until I bought the game and had the disc.
So when Carter said he completed it, he got to the bit where he had to contact Meryl. I was like, "Well, that was a good game. Thank you very much."
Come on, not a con.
The only question I have about that little thing was, is it a really smart fourth wall breaking moment, or is it anti-piracy measure? That's the real question.
Why not both? Storytelling first, piracy limitation second.
I think there's a point where we'll touch on breaking the fourth wall, so it very well could be that. I
Very
don't
well-
think Hideo was.
Well,
I don't think. Yeah, you know what I mean.
So rather than us delving into our gaming past, shall we get into Metal Gear Solid? And I think it is a story-based game, so what better place to start than the setup story that the game has given us? All right, and the story is, well, it starts really, really simple. Basically, you have a team. So it's set in the year 2005, the space year 2005, the faraway future in 1998. So it was anything was possible, including genetically engineered terrorists. And that's exactly what the scenario is here. So you have genetically engineered terrorists. 6 of them have infiltrated and took over Shadow Moses Island, which is in Alaska, and they have threatened the American government with they will launch nuclear missiles if they don't get the remains of Big Boss. What they're going to do with them, we don't know. They just want the remains of Big Boss. It's not a big ask if terrorists come up to me and said, "Here,
Quite small demands, to be
Yeah.
fair. Yeah.
just dig them up, send them to Alaska. It's all good." So basically, these genetically engineered terrorists are four members of Foxhound, which were a elite special forces group, and the American government don't negotiate with terrorists, so they send in ex-Foxhound member Solid Snake to infiltrate Shadow Moses to do two things. The first thing is, do they have the capabilities of launching nuclear missiles? And could you please, whilst you're there, save the DARPA chief, Donald Anderson, and the Arms Tech president, Kenneth Baker? So Snake goes in, and he has a support team of his favourite people, Roy Campbell, Mei Ling, and Dr. Naomi Hunter. We're giving her a full title. She deserves it.
That's it.
And basically, throughout the course of Metal Gear Solid, that story starts from a simple save the hostages and turns into almost anime-esque political intrigue, global conspiracies, and a group of terrorists that have the most advanced piece of warfare technology man has ever seen. And it all
Coda
starts.
vision.
It all starts with a submersible and Solid Snake going into Shadow Moses Island, and it is from the first moment, I think, groundbreaking, wasn't it?
That's it. Yeah. I think even just the dialogue happens. You see Snake swim up, and then has the wee codec exchange. It's the going through the dock area, and the little nuances like the walking through the puddle, your footprints on the dry areas as well. I think even your breath can be you can be
Detect
caught
it.
out that way pretty much straight off the bat. Like
It is just yeah. I mean, as I said there, my memories of it, Metal Gear Solid changed gaming like almost instantly. As soon as you put that game up, you know you're in for something absolutely special, because when as soon as that disc boots up, you get the montage of what is going to happen in the game. You see everything, and it just flashes by, and then it goes into the menu, and then you go into the dock area of Shadow Moses, and just everything about it, the CD sound, the music, the
Yeah.
graphics. Like, don't get me wrong, like, they've aged. um, but I remember 1998. I had never seen a game look so realistic, and there was so much about it. But as you say, Tom, the being interrupted almost constantly, like that first dock area is the tutorial area, but it doesn't give you anything to do other than get to the lift. And that
Yeah.
game explains every mechanic that you're gonna engage with over the next 8 hours in a 5 minute segment. You have, as you say, you have the water in the ground. You have patrolling guards with their vision cones. They have hearing, so they can hear the water. They can see your wet footprints in the dry areas. They will look for you. They will eliminate hiding spots. All in that first area. That little dock area is a microcosm for Metal Gear Solid in its entirety, and it is super impressive. Really, really, really impressive.
Yeah.
I think the start of it is amazing.
Oh no, it is great. I just want to throw back a little bit further before you even boot up the game. Did you watch the mission briefings
No.
where Snake is basically being prepped for the mission? It's like it's a lovely little precursor to actually playing the game because he's not doing this mission of his own will. He's basically coerced into doing it.
Oh, he's been pulled from retirement
Yeah.
again.
So he gets given his nanomachine so it could be tracked for with his codec. He's then given the mission brief. He's then been told who the members of Foxhound are. So you actually get a bit of a more of an insight of who you're dealing with at various points in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then they constantly go, the terrorist leader. And then they're all like, he looks like you. And then the transmissions just end. So that is intrigue alone to kind of
Hmm.
get the plot going. And
Yeah, and it is very much at every point of the game. I think me and you have talked about this off air. It is very, very, very heavy on the story, and
mhm.
it does pull you out the game quite a bit throughout for codec, conversations that go on for a wee bit. Let's not be. It goes on for a wee bit, and you also have the in-engine cutscenes and things like that. But the game is constantly reminded. It knows it's a game, and it doesn't really pull you away from the gameplay element for very long. At any point of the game,
Yeah.
it's almost as if someone is running in Kojima, going, "Okay, that'll do for here. Mate, let's just let them sneak again."
It's a good story engine, but it
Mm-hmm.
also I think it finds a nice balance of no, we are still a game. We are gonna guys. This is like a movie that never got made as well. It's a lot. There's a sort of a lot of elements being juggled, and I think they strike a really nice balance throughout the whole game as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, they do. They do actually. It's. It, I don't know what changes between Metal Gear Solid 1 and Metal Gear Solid 3, but something definitely does, because the restraint shown at Metal Gear Solid 1 is gone by 3. So it is. I don't know
Yeah.
what changed or what happened. Looks like Cardinal wants to say something. Go ahead, mate.
I we could discuss all the Metal Gears, and there'd be a lot to discuss. No, it's just you were talking about that opening scene in that segment of you land in the submersible, and that trains you for Metal Gear 1 and 2,
Mm-hmm.
where
Yes,
you
that's
have
right.
something to cover, and you can dive back into the water if you want. You can cover it under something. There's so many ways of getting into that lift and up. And you
Oh
can
yeah.
be
Yes.
seen, and you can find yourself. You can be seen, and then you can find ways to hide again until the timer ticks down, and they're searching. There's extra people come, and then Metal Gear 3 happens, and it crushes all of that because there's no blocks to hide behind, and there's
Yes.
no you're just exposed constantly and in
Exactly.
nature. And then also there's 3D aiming. But anyway,
No.
it's
Yes. But yeah, so the opening area, as Cardinal said there, so the open area is the docks area. There's what, two guards initially, and then
Yeah.
after 2 minutes, a further two come down on the lift, and then
yeah.
it brings you to four. But by that stage of the game, you're at the lift effectively. So you just run on in behind them all, and then the lift goes up and it goes into an in-engine cinematic, and it is the most James Bond moment of this game, of just Solid Snake ripping off the diving suit, and then you get the title card, Metal Gear Solid, and then the music kicks in. And it's just this very slow elevator ride up to the surface of Shadow Moses. So the game is barely just begun, and it is just, this is unlike any game you have ever played or will probably ever play again, and it is just so impactful. I think in the opening, what the docs is, what, 5 minutes
If
of
even, yeah.
gameplay,
Yeah.
you're treated to like a tour de force in like video game design. You have the little submersible right in with that amazing soundtrack. And then you have there's no music, if memory serves me right, in the dock area. Once you're playing it, there's no in-game music, so
It's
there's not
Just sound,
just
just
ambience, yeah.
ambient
amplifiers.
sound.
Yeah.
And then you go into the lift, and then you're treated again to this orchestral score, and then you go up into the surface of Shadow Moses Island, and there we take about 4 steps. We are treated to another cutscene.
That's it. It's another codec. It's another. I think it's more of a explanation of there's no one set path, and I
Mhm.
think every time I play this, I fall into the same pitfall of I go to the upper floor, the ladder into the vents,
Oh,
and it's
do
Yeah.
not the
you?
easiest. I always do that. I
Yeah.
always am drawn to it. It's not the easiest one because the surveillance camera always clocks you,
A surveillance camera?
and then yeah, you say that, and then as soon as that little tiny cutscene disengages and you're back in the gameplay, the camera's looking straight at you. It does the little zoom in, the click, and then next thing you know, alert mode has happened. So,
Incredible. So you go up the ladder
so I
The,
go outright around the wee boxes,
and up the
let the
stairs.
guard, and then up the stairs, and
Yeah.
then up the
Okay.
ladder that way.
But that's the way I go. I have never been caught by that camera.
It must be either the because I played it on the PlayStation 5 actually, so it must be the way the camera's like hitbox works essentially. But
Possibly, yeah.
as soon as that cutscene disengaged, that Snake has acknowledged that camera, the camera clocks you straight away, and you're in alert mode. So I just found that was like, so the game actually kind of suggests to go that way off his initial look in the binoculars. So I always just
Yes.
go that way. That's it. I never really think much else
Okay.
about it because
Okay, because
the
there's
other way means you have to traverse
I
other
mean, to be
guards and
honest, I
other
played.
patrol routes.
Love talked about the demo disc. I played the shenanigans out of that demo disc
yeah.
myself, and realistically, just there's so many. There's always different ways of doing it, as you were
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, yep.
So,
Just in
so
case
there is
anyone.
the truck, in the on the surface. Are you
Yes.
able to hide in the box in the truck
You
at that
are.
stage, or is that further in?
That's what I was gonna say. Can you go into the back of the truck, hide behind the box, and then wait for a few minutes, and then they drive the truck inside, or is that
Oh, I
later?
don't know.
Because that's exactly what I was going to say. So for if anyone hasn't played Metal Gear Solid, for the whole one of yous, the surface of Shadow Moses Island has the main complex. You have 3 entrance methods, so you can go in through the main hangar door, which is obviously loud, and there's 2 cameras overwatching it. There is a lower vent and there is an upper vent. I always go to the upper vent just because it makes the next section a wee bit easier, just getting down and then
Yeah,
going
yeah.
into the lift and stuff makes that a
Yes.
whole lot easier. But yes, that's what I was going to say, and this was something I was another thing I was going to bring up. So in the back of the truck at the helipad, there is a SOCOM pistol. Did you just pick it up,
I
or do
picked
you
up
just
the
leave it?
SOCOM inside the
Yeah.
first
So
hangar.
this is one of the best things about Metal Gear Solid is Kojima has give you so many options for how to progress through the game, and he's covered his tracks and covered all the bases. So you can pick up the SOCOM in the back of the truck or the helipad. It's hidden behind the box. If you don't pick it up there, then it appears inside the complex in more than one place. Every item does that. So that you can pick up the thermal goggles as soon as you go into Shadow Moses complex. It's in the first door after the security camera. You can go in, sneak around the
Okay.
camera, and pick up your thermal goggles. Um, But yeah, he's
jumping
covered all
ahead,
his bases.
jumping
Genius.
ahead on that
It's
there,
brilliant.
in my playthrough of this, I definitely didn't find the thermal goggles because I was just like, it's here somewhere, and then couldn't find them, and then just went, I'll be fine. So I did the entire game without the thermal goggles
Wow. So
and just the
cigarettes
Wow.
to get through the laser grid.
cigarettes and a mine detector. That's all I did the entire game, and that's the first time I've ever done that. I thought it was absolutely, it's not
Incredible.
ideal, but it's
What
great.
a maverick.
That's
Hmm.
absolutely incredible. So it's absolutely incredible. So yeah, the thermal goggles are in the second door on the left on the upper floor of Shadow Moses. As soon as you enter, you just pick them up. There is a camera up there, but if you hug the walls, it'll never see you. Just get
Yeah.
in, get out.
Shaft grenades, lad. Shaft
Um,
grenades all
you
around.
haven't got them yet.
Oh,
You haven't
they
got
come
them yet.
later.
You haven't
What?
got them yet.
You get them? Are they're in the middle of the
Oh, the
beams, the search,
helipad.
the
No one goes in
helipad.
there, man. We're not maniacs.
I go in there.
Maniac. Absolute
I run.
insanity.
I wait for the timing of the lights and run out, and then when they go back out again, I run to the middle and then back again. And to be honest, I usually get seen, and then I run back and hide.
This will be one of those daunting statistics that it turns out Cardinal just gets spotted everywhere, kills every guard in every room,
Hang on, no,
and
that's what I
but
imagine you do. I've seen you play Fortnite.
I am stealthy as in this playthrough, as stealthy as stealth will allow. To be fair,
Are you though? so yeah, so this is what I love about it. The helipad also shows off a wee bit more the environmental awareness of the genome soldiers. Basically, it's all snow, and if you run through the snow and a guard comes across your tracks, they do disappear because it is still snowing. But if they see your tracks, they will follow your tracks to find you, which is absolutely
it's a great
fantastic.
mechanic in game as well. Really, really is. And I think it's something that I think is a bit lost these days now.
It's there's so many little touches in this game that just make it so good. One of the guards has the cold outside as well, and you can use his sneezes in order to get past them without being detected. It's just brilliant. The start of this game is just incredible, and just it puts you in such a good place that you're willing to then suspend all disbelief with what the game is going to throw at you over
Yeah.
the course of the next 8 hours. It just really is fantastic. So we have gotten into the complex, and our first job is to locate the DARPA chief, Kenneth, or Kenneth Baker, isn't it? DARPA chief
No, Kenneth
Baker,
Baker is
Donald,
yeah,
Donald.
Donald Anderson.
and you find him in sub basement level 1, and he is in prison. So we have to find a way in, and Snake does what anyone would do: go through the air vents and jump on down. And then they have a cutscene in which he says that the terrorists have the nuclear detonation codes, they have the launch codes because they have tortured him and delved into his mind. And this is where things start getting a little weird because no sooner has he uttered those words, is he then dying of a heart attack. And then the intrigue
And how's that happen?
starts. It's a real
We'll get there.
coincidence. It is a real coincidence that you talk to this man and he dies of a heart attack.
Far too convenient.
And then you break
But
out of prison.
that's it. It's
from
funny
it.
though, as soon as because you talk about that, he has the heart attack, and then you have the codec conversation to say that in the panic that the DARPA chiefs had a heart attack. It then has this really bizarre parallel flashback of Ocelot in the torture chair, which it
Yes.
seems really out of place at the time because if you're actually paying attention to that, we're going to deep dive this anyway. You see, it's the DARPA chief in the
Torture
chair.
chamber. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's such a bizarre sequence, but I guess it's kind of cool that they're playing Snake this whole time. Really, the terrorists.
Yeah, yes, and he does it throughout the entire game. Something will happen and someone will say something or someone will do something and it's like, what is why are they sharing that? Or
It's
why are
nearly too much exposition, but then if you're not paying it, it's a blink and you miss it moment. But obviously, we're deep diving this, so we're tirelessly noticing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the first one because it never struck me until this playthrough. That I was like, why does it show you? Because there was a lot of the story beats I forgot about. This was one of them. I'm not gonna lie, this was one I forgot about. And I was like, why is it showing us that? Is that a flashback? What's going on? Because you do hear a conversation as you're going through. You hear a couple of conversations as you're crawling through the air vents to get to uh, the DARPA chief, and you hear about there's someone who's broke into the complex and has killed
Yes.
five people at that stage, I think it
Yeah.
is. And they do say about the Psycho Mantis is going to break his mind and get what we need as well. So it is dropping these little
You get
breadcrumbs of a
context clues, yeah.
story. Yeah, and it's like, what's going on here? So you talk to Donald Anderson. He gives you a key card, which opens some doors, level 1, and he tells you that Kenneth Baker needs help and needs to get out there because they're going to try to break his mind. But he has been trained and he is harder to break, so they might do more horrible things to him than what they did to the DARPA chief. And then we break out of jail with a unnamed guard who may or may not be female and have a really nice wiggle when she walks.
Because
So
apparently
Snake
that's
notices.
important. That's important later on.
she also has you've rookie eyes. You never fired a gun before. Bullets ripping through flesh.
Meryl's great. Meryl's this like epitome of like feminist, but also at the same time, it's like, oh look at me, I can't do this. I'm a woman, but also it's like, don't touch me. I'm a woman. I can do what I want.
Yes, Meryl. When I was younger, I really liked Meryl. I liked the character of Meryl. This playthrough, she's a pain. She is
Yes.
just a pain. She just doesn't listen to Snake. She has no idea what she's doing. He has every idea what he's doing. She doesn't listen to him, constantly gets herself in trouble, and is just more a hindrance than a help at any stage of the story. She's just useless. I don't like her character. Just saying it.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Tell us what
Yeah.
you really feel.
But anyway, once she leaves, we find out that she is Colonel's niece, and she refused to
Personal
take
stakes.
and she refused to take part to help the terrorists, and that's why she was in prison. So now we are going to find the arms tech president, Kenneth Baker. So we run to the lift that Meryl has just used, and as we run there, we get our first glimpse of one of our bosses, probably the best boss in the game. He just appears and says, "Yes, that's right," and it
I am
disappears, and you're like, "What
exposition.
the? What the? What's going on here?" Even Snake goes, "What's going on, Colonel? Something's going on here."
I just had an hallucination.
Is this the nano machines?
He does like to blame the nanomachines for an awful lot, though.
Well, to be fair, they were injected at him. He didn't request them.
Pretty much against his will, yeah.
So I would be skeptical of that as well. People were skeptical of the vaccine from 2 years ago, for goodness sake. I mean, it's normal. I can fully understand his thing. So then we go down to sub basement level 2. We blow up a couple of hidden walls, and we find Kenneth Baker. And he's being tied to a pylon in the middle of a room with lots of explosive tripwires. And
Bit of overkill.
we meet our first boss of the game, and it is Revolver Ocelot.
I don't like this boss.
The right hand man to his boss, Liquid Snake. You don't like this boss? How come? What's
I
wrong with
just
this boss
think
fight?
it's just a lot of running around,
Mm-hmm.
and you shoot him, and then you run around a bit more, and you shoot him, and you try and be smart and run back and catch him out, and he sees you do that, so he runs the opposite way. So it is just a bit drawn out process of cat and mouse
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of quips from Ocelot going, I just like how guns shoot and battling and stuff. It's kind of like just nonsensical metaphor, so you make it sounds a lot more profound than it actually is.
Yes. I don't like it either. Truth be told, it's really, really basic, and there's only one way of beating him, and that is literally running around behind him with a SOCOM pistol, hoping that he misses you, has to reload, and you get one shot, because you can only ever at any time get one shot at him, and then he'll start running, and then he halfway through it, when he starts ricocheting the bullets off walls and stuff to get at you. But all in all, it's not a very good boss fight.
It's an introductory boss fight.
Yes.
But it's also an
combat,
introduction
yeah.
to a chap who you'll be journeying with over the next decade of your life.
Yes, that's
Possibly.
very true. That's very true. In the end, it's really, really easy, and it is just to get you used to the combat mechanics, because up until this point, you haven't used them, and you will be using them a lot in this game.
Mhm.
For a stealth game, there's a lot of shooting going on, and it is to get you used to the aiming and shooting mechanics of the game. But yeah, that fight ends. Revolver gets his hand cut off, his shooting hand
Mm.
cut off by a mysterious cyborg invisible ninja, who then freaks out and then runs away.
But it's another one of those plot devices where Ocelot looks at him and goes, "No, you're supposed to be dead." And then next thing you know, Ninja bolts,
He just
and then you're
runs.
left with more questions again.
His suit seems to malfunction, and then he runs off, and then we are left with Revolver also running away. I'll get you later, Snake. Don't you worry about that. And then you go and rescue Kenneth Baker, and as Kenneth Baker is telling you all the good stuff, wouldn't you believe it? He dies
Not again.
of a heart attack.
Snake just knows how to draw them in.
Snake's like, this is not on. I need to talk to the Colonel about this. Colonel, this is the second time a major hostage has died. What's going on? Colonel's like, I have no idea.
don't
Maybe
know.
they're just sick. They're old man.
I mean,
Alaska's
get a bit,
cold.
we
You
get
don't
a
know how
bit
it
more
affects the heart.
information from Baker. He does tell us that this is actually a secret underground facility for the development of Metal Gear.
Yes,
It's
he
not
does tell
just
us
the
that.
nuclear. It's a big plot moment. You know, it's not just a disposal facility. They're actually running secret tests to turn Metal Gear into a armament, a nuclear deterrent. I believe was the term.
The term they used. Yeah, he'll give you another key card and you continue your quest. You're told to go to the Warhead Storage Unit, I believe it is.
To go and find Dr. Emmerich.
That's right. He'll
Yeah.
tell you he was really deep into the development of Metal Gear. So you go, you have another boss fight. It's a tank. Is there much to talk about apart from
No,
the
not
laser
really.
grid to get out there? Is worth talking about, I think,
The
because Tom,
cigarettes is a good shout. Yes.
you have alluded to that. You use cigarettes, so basically it's a hangar door. It's an airlock almost. One door is open, one door closes, and it's protected by moving laser grids. There's two ways of getting through it. There's the right way of getting the thermal goggles in the second room to the left on the top floor, so you can see the lasers and you just avoid them. It's really easy. Or you can use the much more difficult way of Snake has sneaked in cigarettes in his stomach and obviously regurgitate them, but you smoke them, and because of the smoke from your cigarette, you can see the
It's
laser
a
beams
very
and avoid it.
finite field of view, so you only
Yes,
get maybe a couple of pixels either side of Snake's like person, but it's there and it is a faff. But then the problem I have with the goggles is that I spend 90% of the game playing it with the goggles, so you just have nothing but a hue of red
yes.
for 90% of the story. So because nearly everything has mines or lasers in it, so
Even some cutscenes play out with the red if you leave them on. I noticed I did find that. But yeah, you fight a tank. The only thing you mention about the tank is it introduces Raven to
Vulcan
us.
Raven.
Vulcan Raven is a hulking Russian
He's
who
a shaman, yeah.
wants to play. I think is the words he used. So he sends out a tank, a couple of grenades, and you're through the tank and you're into the storage facility. There's not much to say about here. A couple of
Solid Snake here takes out a tank with just grenades.
grenades,
Okay.
yeah.
At
Yeah.
that point, you're thinking because it's building up. Oh my god, it's a tank. I'm just one person. Oh, it's all right. That person's Solid Snake. It doesn't matter. Night tank.
Yeah, it's not very interesting. You have
Well,
to
it
avoid a
does.
couple of claymores and then run around the circles around it and lob a
It,
grenade every now and again.
it does do that thing though, and we'll touch on this a few times more. But like the dialogue and the line delivery and stuff about Vulcan has a lot heavy. He's very heavy on the metaphors, where it's like he's there sort of just to test Snake and see where he's at, sort of what the terrorists are up against, and he says a line to the boss on the radio. He is like a demon possessed on the battlefield. And it's like, and he's a very formidable match. So I think Vulcan's a particularly favorable character for me because he's just full of these really dense metaphors, and
Which
I need
that
more
line,
of it.
just you saying that line there reminds me of something Revolver Ocelot says when you beat him. He's like, You're a great fighter, Snake. I wouldn't expect less from the man with the same code as the boss. And you're like,
Yeah.
what does that mean? What does this mean?
The dialogue in this is incredible. Like even if it's just, it's not even so much like the words themselves. I think it's a tribute to the voice actors and how they've even delivered it as well. Like
Oh well,
it's
well.
brilliant.
Yes, the voice acting is something. It is so good. But yes, we get through the nuclear warhead storage facility. We go down the stairs, and we get into one of the best fights in the game, in my opinion, which is the cyborg ninja character,
Yes.
and
Gray Fox.
we find out his identity is Gray
Oh, sorry.
Fox.
I'm operating on the principle that anyone who's listened to this has already played this game, so I feel as if
We're this far in now. We've spoiled
that's
the
it.
entire first 2 hours.
That's it.
Snake fought Grey Fox on the fields of Zanzibar in amongst a minefield in Metal Gear, the original on NES. Well,
And
he's
they-
Good
back.
work, by the way. Yeah.
And they fought to the death. So technically,
Death.
Snake
there-
thought this man was dead, but he
Is there a
isn't.
bit of gaslighting going on in this? Because I have a feeling like these characters all get introduced, and like to the sort of PlayStation One player at the time is probably going like, "Where's all this like background coming from? How am I'm not supposed to know this." Like Metal Gear Solid implies that like this is the first. There isn't games before it or anything like that.
Yes.
So I
So
feel as if Kojima does, or like Konami or whatever, just do a little tiny little bit of gaslighting.
so yes. So I looked into this, right? So remember
Of course you did.
I said in a previous episode of the podcast about Kojima doesn't like Metal Gear 2 because he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I was incorrect. Kojima does not like the NES port of Metal Gear Solid 2 because he had nothing to do with that. Konami greenlit that behind his back. And a few parts of Metal Gear Solid retcons what happened in some parts of Metal Gear Solid on the NES.
Oh, okay.
So it does. So there is a fight in Metal Gear Solid 2 where Snake fights Grey Fox. That does happen, but I don't believe in the game Grey Fox dies. If that makes sense.
I know because they
Um,
said that he like he's near death and they capture him and put him in this prototype
Yes.
exoskeleton and then just prolong him with drugs and like hypnotherapy and kind of stuff like that. Real
Yes.
primitive 2005 technology.
I mean, like super primitive, man. You've never seen anything like it. Like mobile phones inside your head. you know, wow.
So,
05 was a
we-
crazy year.
So the fight with Grey Fox then
Yes.
the
I
hand thing
really-
throughout, I think it's brilliant.
I really like it. I think the character is introduced so well. Before you go into the boss room, you come out of the lift, and there's just a corridor that's just littered with corpses, and there's
Mhm.
blood on the walls in very precise straight lines, and you're like, "What is going on?" And there's this like really like low key music plays when you come out of the lift, and Snake's like, "What the
It's real
hell?"
ghostly, yeah. It's
And then-
very spiritually sounding. Nearly.
Yes, and it's so unsettling. It's almost like Silent Hill style music. And then the game gives you control, and you walk up the corridor. When you get about halfway, you hear a struggle, and then someone gargling in their own blood. You run around the corner, and there's a guard just floating in midair. And then
Yeah.
Grey Fox turns off his active camouflage, and it is just what a way to introduce a character. It is incredible. It
Yeah.
is so effective. And I have played this game so many times. That still makes me really excited to see who this guy is because Grey Fox is the coolest looking thing I have ever seen in a video game. His armor is awesome. It's like Power Ranger armor, only super cool.
Yeah. It's good though because without the introduction of Grey Fox, we don't get the introduction. And speaking of great ways to introduce a character, uncontrollably wetting himself, we get Hal Otacon Emmerich.
Yes, incredible. And there's a throwback in Metal Gear Solid 2 as well to that, where I think when you hide, it tells you how to hide in the locker, and you go into a locker, and then Otacon rings, and he's like, the first time you met me, Snake, I was in a locker. Now we're even. And then Snake's like, not until I piss my pants. Amazing. It's
Oh, that
so
is
good. But
quality.
yes, once the fight begins with him, I think everyone who's ever played Metal Gear Solid tried the exact same thing. Let's blast this man. You brought you brought a sword to a gunfight, my friend. But no, he did not, because he deflects every single thing, and then the fight will stop,
Yeah.
and he will throw down the challenge. Let's fight, bare hand. And I think he says, like old times, Snake. And you're like, what? Okay. And then it starts this amazing, like, I don't know, how many phases is there?
It's like a
Three?
3-phase fight.
Three
Yeah.
phase boss fight, where the first one's really simple. He just walks around. He'll throw a dig every now and again, but you just sort of, once he throws his punch, he has like a wind down. You just go in, get your 3-hit combo, and then back off of him. And then once you get him about a third of his
Third of the way
health,
down. Yeah.
then he switches on his active camouflage, and
Which is really difficult to do when you only have
without
cigarettes, by
your,
the way.
that's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. I think he has 3 hiding spots. The first one will always
Yeah,
be beside the locker, beside the computer
they'll
terminals.
telegraph the first one because it's in a cutscene, but then
Yes,
it's trying to figure out his pattern. It seems to be randomly generated
it
every
is.
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you have the thermal goggles, you can see him
Hmm.
obviously, and again, he will just sort of walk a wee bit more acrobatically. He will kick and he will backflip. He will jump over the computer stalls, and hit you with a combo. The second phase is probably the most difficult. So it is, in my opinion. That's the one I failed on the most
It's where
out of the
he'll
3.
essentially he'll disappear as you throw punches.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
that is
you have to
quite tough.
wait for
It's
him to throw
annoying.
his.
You have to figure out like when he's gonna throw his like he'll have to have like a super punch or he'll like
Yeah,
kick you or something like that. Yeah, no,
you have.
it's
Yeah, you wait for him to finish his combo, and then you go in, hit him with your combo, and then back off, and just sort of
I,
recycle it.
I I will tell you what got me the most, and I died a couple of times on this one. And obviously, the boss fight is technically still happening when he just goes into berserker mode and the electro field around him.
Yes. Now the
You get
first
if
time,
you get hit in the if you're even remotely in that hitbox, it'll
it's a
take a ton of health.
it's
Yeah,
a ton of health. Yes, and your health bar is very small still at this stage of the game. Um, but yeah, I didn't know what to go on. But the third phase for that one is he just walks around looking to do you great harm. And it's such a great boss fight. Once you get him down to like the last hit, that's when he puts on like the pulsing like thing, and if you get caught in it, it does mega damage. And it's
yeah.
hard to know what the timing is for that, because it never
It just
stops,
happens. Yeah.
but the intensity of it drops, and you have to hit him when it's at its lowest intensity. Um, Once you beat him, you meet Otacon, who has he's the biggest weeb in video game history, isn't he?
That's it. He's funny though because like Snake comes in and like big lore dump from Otacon, and he nearly tries to catch him out in a lie, which I think is brilliant like in this part of the game. 'Cause he's like, "Oh, Metal Gear, like it's just a training exercise," and it's like he grabs him and then just goes, "Don't you know that Metal Gear launches nukes?" And then
He's like,
Otacon's
what?
like, "What? It's
He's
not
like,
meant
what?
to."
No, no, it doesn't. And he's like, yeah, stabilizers. Rah! But what I love about that, once that whole interaction happens, Snake goes, "What did you think you were building?" Yeah, and he goes on about how he hates nuclear weapons and all this here sort of business. And then during that monologue, he comes to the realization that Snake's right, and he's helped create this walking nuclear equipped battle tank. And he drops to his knees and does the whole Planet of the Apes. They did
What?
it. Those B words, they finally did it. What have I done? And then he decides, you know what, Snake, you're a good lad. I am going to help you, and we are going to stop this nuclear launch.
And we're gonna be
Here
best buds in the process.
here is my key card, but unfortunately, I have hurt my ankle, Snake, so I'm going to have to go and hide. But it's okay because I have active camouflage, 5 of them in my office. I'll just go there now and go get one of them. You're like, can I have one?
Can I borrow?
Yeah, that's it.
Can I
He
borrow
also
one of
says
them?
that he'll bring you ammo and need never
he
once.
he does. I think he will only give you ammo drops if you're about to go into a boss arena with no ammo. or not enough ammo, he will call you and go, Snake, I left ammo here for you.
Oh,
So,
okay.
because for me, later on, Sniper Wolf 1, um, after I beat Sniper Wolf 1, I was passing back through after the backtracking part, and he had left a box of PSG ammo in the little where you snipe her.
Yeah,
He had
it's
left me a
weird.
box of
It's weird
PSG
when he
ammo
says that
there.
he offers that though, because like each phase, the game will drop the ammo relevant to the fight that you need next. Like so, coming up, I got a lot of like FAMAS
Yes.
ammo and a lot of SOCOM ammo, knowing that I was going into the Psychomantis fight basically.
Yes. Um, yeah, it's a weird wee game for that sort of. It does give you what you need. It will if you don't use your PSG one, it will never give you ammo for it because you don't need it. It seems to have some sort of like coding system where it goes, oh, the player is using this gun, he's going to need more of this ammo, so
And they'll give
we'll
you it based on that. Yeah.
we'll spawn more of that. Yeah. So we have got Otacon, and then we have to go and
Yes. Go
speak with
find Meryl,
Meryl because
which
Meryl was given a key card from Kenneth Baker, who
that's
shared the
right.
cell with her, which is
What
interesting.
the
We
laugh
don't know.
is as well because she's in disguise and Otacon is like, oh, Snake is like, I'm gonna find her, and then Otacon just hits her with the, "Don't be so dense."
Yes. Yes. And then it has the flashback to her wiggle as she runs to the lift. So we're basically going to look for a guard that has a bum wiggle
Distinct
walk,
walk.
effectively. And to to my shock, so you'll find you have to go to your room, and it's in a very ornate sort of hallway. I think it's basement B2 of the nuclear storage
Yeah, it's like the
facility.
commander's office as well, and it's
B2.
like it's
It's a big old room with
so,
loads of doors on each side, and there's three
Yeah.
guards inside, one of which will be Meryl. Now, I went in, the first time I went into that room, I was like, okay, this will be easy. I'll just kill the guards I can kill, and then Meryl will be left. So I snuck up on one, broke his neck, snuck up on the second one, broke his neck, and then it went game over because I killed Meryl. And the colonel was like, Snake, what have you done?
that is
And the game
excellent to be
ends.
fair.
So
But
you
like if
can kill
Meryl,
Meryl.
but if Meryl spots you, then the exclamation mark comes up and she just guns to
Bolts.
the bathroom. Yeah, I just gonna say we forgot about the Nikita missile to blow up the.
Oh, it's a horrible part of the game that they
It
blow up
is.
the electric box. Like that room is the most secure corridor on planet Earth. Snake, the air is poisoned, and the floor is electrified. It's like what?
Oh yeah, I like the this nuclear storage facility has no like sense. Like it has like towers with nothing but automated guns. It's got poison corridors. Like it's just I don't know who designed their security system, but like they're
Yes,
obviously raking it in.
there is a couple of parts like that where it makes no sense. When you go into the nuclear storage facility, you get a call from Colonel going, Snake, you can't fire any guns in that room. The warheads will explode. But every guard they see it, it starts,
Fires
starts
weapons
blasting
at
you.
you.
And it's like, what
It's
is
just
going
weird things
on?
to hinder the player, and it's like make any sense as I get gunned
Yes.
down.
Yes. So, so there's one of two ways they can find the Meryl. Number one, you go into the room, you can let her see us, she run to the toilet, or if you just hang about in the corridor for 2 or 3 minutes, the guards take it in turns to go to the toilet, and one of them will come out and go to the girls' toilets. And just
Yeah,
wait
or
for
you
her
just
there,
follow them in.
and
And
then
then she comes in and gives you the whole I really want to be a soldier. I'm not a rookie. Like I love Foxhound, but only when you were in it.
I love big guns as
Yeah.
well.
Uh,
There's that speech about big guns. That's a big gun for a girl.
it's
I
like
know how
take
to
my
handle it.
45. It's like take my 45. I've held a gun like this since I was 8 years old. I was like, oh my god, we get it.
Yeah,
You
like
can hold
Colonel,
your own.
what have you been doing with your family? Like,
It's just incredible. And then um you leave the toilets with Meryl, and she's like, I know how to get to where we need to go. We need to go to the comms tower. That's where we're going. We need to go to the comms tower. I know the way there. We have to go through the director's office. And you leave the toilet, and all the guards are gone, and it's just a walk into the office and the best boss fight in the game. Probably, probably one of the most iconic boss fights of all time. It is Psycho Mantis.
There
And
it is.
Psycho Mantis, there's not much we can say that other people haven't said about Psycho Mantis fight. It is
Yeah,
incredible. Um, it is. I didn't use any weapons to beat him. I just punched him.
punched him.
Yeah, punched him to oblivion. To be fair to the man, yeah, he didn't stand a chance. But basically, the premise is he will throw objects from around the room at you. He will launch chairs to form like a force field around himself. Once you hit him, once you get his energy to a certain point, he will start using Meryl, not against you, but he will tell her to shoot herself, and you have to knock her unconscious while he's
Yeah,
attacking you. And all the while, if you try to attack him, he will dodge everything you
deflects
do.
everything and stuff as well. Yeah, the control port, I think, is one of the most. It's the single greatest thing to come out of uh, the analog controllers, basically, as well.
It's so good. It's just like, you're like, Colonel, I can't hit him. He seems to know what I'm doing. It's like, it's the controller port, Snake. He's
It's
reading the
like
port. And it's
if you
like,
don't figure it
what?
out, if you figure it out on your own, fair enough. Like that happens. But I think it's if you die 2 or 3 times, Colonel will tell you straight away. But I think if you're trying to figure it out, if you ring Colonel 5 or 6 times, he'll
Yeah.
basically just go, "It's this." Like it
Yes.
can't be that difficult. But it's the other wee silly things in that exchange as well. It's like the boss is great, but it's the sort of I'm going to demonstrate my psycho
Ah, yes.
abilities to you. So they vibrate the another one. Then they read the memory card. So if you have other Konami games, is
Konami
it?
games. I think
Yeah,
that's brilliant. That was brilliant
that's
because that blew my mind when I was a kid. Because obviously I had like ISS and stuff saves on, and he was like say things along the lines of, "I see you're a great sports person," and all this here business. It's so good.
it's fourth wall, as Cardinal said earlier. It's I think it's one of the best moments of it.
If you
It
think about coding that you're thinking about coming up with that idea, even for the different controller, that's never been done before. And you're coming up with the idea, okay, so you're thinking like an if controller port 2, then Psycho Mantis does this. Port 1, Psycho Mantis does that. That's amazing. The
Yeah,
reading the
it's
memory card is a technological feat. Because if you
yeah.
think you could save a game on a PlayStation 1, it takes time to load up that memory card. And then
yeah.
it loads up all the icons, then it saves it. It takes time. And
But it
Psycho
has to
Mantis is
then read
just,
your it has to read your in-game stats as well. So it has to read how many times
yeah.
you've been discovered, how
You
many
just
times you've
yeah.
saved, and so there's a lot going on. That's actually a very good point, Cardinal. Like a technological standpoint for '97, that's
98, yeah. It's just
'98.
incredible.
Yeah,
Even for today's standard, there's game developers out there who wouldn't even dare attempt something like that because it could be absolutely game breaking. It'll be an absolute, as Cardinal says, it'll be a code nightmare to get that working correctly and as it was intended. And to my knowledge, it is every Konami game that had been released to that point on PlayStation 1. It wasn't just a handful of titles, it was every single Konami game on PlayStation 1 to that point. So
that's
Castlevania
incredible.
Symphony of the Night and all has its own unique
Phrase, I
sentence.
suppose. Then, yeah,
It's just insane. I think, as Cardinal says, it takes time to read those memory cards. They are solid state, like, but they are 1998 solid state. They're just RAM chips, effectively. I think the whole put your controller on the floor and let me show you my power is the game buying time to access your memory card. That's
yeah,
what I think's going on there, and it even has that great bit where after he does the controller thing and tells you you still don't believe me, and then he just goes, and then your screen goes black, and
yeah.
it looks like your console's being disconnected. In the top corner, just Hideo appears,
Hideo.
and then it blinks back into light. It's just incredible. The whole setup for that fight is just magnificent. It
But
is
I think
brilliant.
Kojima does it in a lot of games as well. Like even particularly in Metal Gear Solid 3, where you climb the ladder to the radio
And
tower,
the
the
music.
transmitter. But it's only done because it's the sheer
Loading.
size of the game. It's a loading screen, so I think
Snake
it makes
Eater.
they put all these bits into the game as we're stalling basically, so it makes
Yeah.
sense.
We need to stop you moving forward. because we need to do something really cool here. And that's basically what it is. And can I just say, right, we haven't spoke about the graphics of this game in any sort of detail. When I walked into that office, I was blown away by what I was seeing in that room.
'Cause it's the
So it
most
is
detailed at this
it's
point of the game.
it's stunning, and it's just like some of the technological things he got PlayStation 1 to do in that room is crazy. So it is a ornate, polished floor, and everything that I know it's basically what he's done is he's took the above room, flipped it upside down, dropped the the detail level on it, and that's how you do that. But it looks incredible. The characters also reflect on the floor. So
Oh,
it does.
okay.
It is just so good, and it is just again. I said this again. It's a I'd never seen anything like that in a game before. Even today, I was impressed by that room. I was impressed by that fight. The fight isn't much to talk about as an actual fight. It's just a lot of crawling around the floor, waiting for your chance to spring up, hit him with a 1, 2, 3 combo, and then hit the ground before a pitcher comes flying off the wall. I do believe in that fight, though. There's Psycho Mantis statues, two of them, one on each side. Apparently, you can do damage to those to damage him.
If that's the case, I've never tried it. I at
Nor have
least
I.
I tried
Wow.
it thinking that you could destroy them beforehand, but
Yeah, so you can destroy them, and it takes him out of his invisibility thing and makes him,
apparently
I
that
think
was
it's.
something you could, if you destroyed them, that actually stopped him from reading your mind. I think that was another trope to get
I don't.
around it as well, but
Well, when you
who
walk into the
knows?
room, yeah, once you hit the middle point of the floor, he appears, and then it's a cutscene. So you can't skip that because it's
Yeah.
loading, I presume. But can we talk about what happens when you kill him? Because when you kill him, and this was something I had never seen in a video game before, like genuinely, I had never seen anything like this. Was once you defeat him, he's lying on the ground. He takes his mask off, and he gives you his backstory about how he
Which is,
was.
yeah.
His powers don't come from the genetic engineering he went under. He was just born with it. He could just read people's minds. That's why he wore the gas mask, because it stops the sounds. But he read his father's mind and realized that his father hated him and didn't want him around, so he kills his father. And it is this
Yeah.
real. It is like a real moment. It's just like where Meryl, him, and Snake are having this conversation.
You get a
He,
real lore dump for the character, but you also get like then go. I never agreed with the boss's plan. I just wanted to kill as many people as I
yeah,
could. So like he just is
Yeah.
a bit unhinged, but
but it's a wee bit
there's
of
a
redemption
sadness.
for him.
There's a
There's he's
there's
not just it's not. I think it's Kojima going. Video game enemies can be more than just the giant lizard that steals a princess every single game. These can
mhm.
be actual characters with motivations and whatnot. So he tells you where to go. He basically says, "Go to the comms tower. That's where you want to go." And then he asks for his mask so he can die in peace without hearing everyone's thoughts. I just thought, yeah, really, really good scene.
But
Really good
I
scene.
think he's the first one, and then as we go, I think all profound bit of storytelling to do as well. So I
Hmm.
think it's a good stepping point to like not sympathize, because let's face it, he is still a lunatic at the end of the day,
Hmm.
but it
Hmm.
like gives him a sense of like this is a good character.
A bit of tragedy.
He's not just a grunt
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah, he's a fully fleshed out character. He's not a cartoon 2D villain. He actually has reasons for doing what he's doing, and this is the reason, because he was horribly,
This
horribly
next bit
mistreated as a
annoys me though
child.
because
The next bit,
we
I think we
we
can
go
kind of just gloss over.
well. That's it. You go through the wolves.
Oh, the
That's not,
wolves.
the
The
wolves are
wolves is
annoying.
my personal most hated part.
Oh, it's
Just
And
it's it's my second most hated part in this game. But yeah, you go through a snowfield, you see some wolves, crawl through some really hard to see tunnels.
mhm,
And you go to Sniper Wolf. Well, you go to the base of the comms tower. Meryl gets sniped because she's an idiot and doesn't know how to stick to walls and stuff. And then the colonel's like, Snake, Meryl needs help. He's like, I can't. There's a sniper. And he's like, you need a sniper rifle, Snake. So go right back to the room beside
it's that
Kenneth
just
Baker's boss
bugs me.
fight, and then you have to go all the way back to the start of the game to pick up a sniper rifle that you
yeah.
can't even pick up earlier because you need a level 5 card. You can't get that earlier than
No,
that.
you can. I tried to do it actually before the Psychomantis fight, and the lifts are suspended. Everything's
Yep.
done so Psychomantis forces you to go there,
Once the
but you
music
can't.
stops, yeah.
Yeah, but you can't even go back after that either.
No,
So
because I
it's so frustrating. But I think, if I remember correctly, this is close enough to where disc one ends.
disc one ends. Yes,
So
yes.
I don't understand the motivation to make you go all the way back. Is it literally just to
It's padding
mess with your
time.
head?
It's padding time, yeah. So it's just like if it didn't force you to leave that room, if it just threw you into the boss fight there and then, how would they remove Meryl in order to
Yeah,
put her at
true.
peril? Do you know what I mean? So they need you to leave that room so they can despawn Meryl's body. She's been captured by the terrorists, yada yada yada. But anyway, you get the PSG one, you go back and you fight Sniper Wolf, and it's a really non-event of a boss fight. It's literally
Quite
five
quick.
shots. Yeah. There's nothing really to talk about. And then you get captured.
I love this.
And
This
then you
this was
have
this was the bane of my existence in this in our playthrough
yes.
of this.
Yes. You get
You
captured.
think Meryl's in peril, and then this.
Solid Snake is in big trouble because he wakes up. He gets knocked unconscious when he wakes up. He's on a torture device that's going to pass electricity through his body, and it becomes a 2 rounds of smashing your circle button into absolute oblivion. It's tougher than I remember it.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
god. It is just. Although the handy thing is that when it says to regain your strength, even after the round's
yeah,
completely finished, you can still keep mashing it, and
gain a
after
wee
the
bit
fact,
more.
and still gain more. Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's needlessly hard. Like
it is.
I played this on medium. I don't know about you guys.
Medium as well.
I'd have hated
Yeah,
to have played
normal.
this on hard.
Um,
Really would have
I'm
hated to play it on hard.
I'm not gonna lie. I mapped one of the Steam Deck's back buttons to rapidly tap the O button, even though Revolver Ocelot says, "I'll know if you're using turbo." Nah, mate. No, you won't. No, you
That's
don't.
it.
You wee rascal. You're lying. You are
Now,
lying to me.
I don't know about you guys, but you go through your rounds of torture, survive, you go, they throw you in the prison cell. We find out that the DARPA chief has actually died several days before.
This is it. This is the part that shocked me because I forgot about this. So after you survive a torture, you get put back in jail, as you say. The DARPA chief's body's on the floor, but he's like decomposing. He's being eaten by maggots. Snake rings Colonel and is like, "This is weird because it looks like he's been dead for a couple days." And like, that is weird, Snake. What's going on here? And then Master Miller comes onto the scene with a big old Snake. Can I talk to you in private, mate? Because I think Naomi's had something to do with this here, kid. um,
But yeah, this whole like subplot that just kind of appears out of nowhere.
it comes out of nowhere, and then he's like, "Here,
That's
ask her these questions," and Snake does, and she gives him answers, and then he's like, "Well, Snake, here's the here's the crack here. She's lied," and then gives
the
you all these
mafia
reasons.
stings didn't happen in New York; they happened in
Yeah.
Chicago. And I'm like, what is this going to do with anything? I like it's such a bizarre thing to interject at this point in the story, considering you have to try and escape the prison cell. You've got to figure out where Meryl is as well. Also, I don't know if you guys have played. I don't know how it's like on the emulator. Obviously, playing on the Steam Deck. So Snake talks to Naomi, and Naomi says, "Put the controller onto your arm."
Yes, and she makes it vibrate. Yeah, it is to
Yeah,
heal your arm because it's sore.
and
Yeah,
so Snake's like, "My arm's really sore," and she's like, "Oh, I'll stimulate the nano machines."
yeah, yes, it does that. Yeah,
This airy fairy near future 2005.
it's just incredible, man. But yeah, so now we're at the position where one of the three people who are support team may not be working with our best interests and may or may not be working for the terrorists. I think is the what
Yeah, that's it.
is what Master Miller says. But yeah, so once we break out of jail, we go all the way back to the comms tower, and then
I have a note. I have an excellent note here about that because you go from basically the prison cells at the start of the game back to the comms tower,
hmm,
which I imagine in game has only been an hour,
yes,
maybe. Snake's
hmm,
passed out. He's come to. I wrote. It's the profound flashback. He sees Meryl's blood on the floor, and then has to have a flashback of Meryl getting shot again.
Yes, and in the real world, it's probably been about 10 minutes. Like, is it even 10 minutes?
It's
Like,
pretty like,
it's like
you know,
this is needless.
grand scheme of things. Like all this is pretty. The beats are pretty instant. So Meryl getting shot is still a relatively fresh thing. We're aware it's happened. We don't need a
But that
flashback.
but that was on the first disc. Who knows how long it's been since
Uh,
you put that second disc in?
oh,
You know?
that's very true. That
That's
is
a good
very
point,
true.
actually.
So once you get out of the jail, you go back, blah blah blah. It is it's the worst part of the game, isn't it?
It's the comms tower. It's the secret load screen.
it's
It's the action sequence of the comms tower.
It is the worst part of the game, and it is a massive, massive, massive spike in difficulty. It is like this game is not messing about anymore, and it is hard. It is hard. Go ahead,
Are
Carl.
we talking about the climb?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
The game is very much left the tactical espionage, and we're very much into the action part of this game now. I must admit.
Yeah. So basically, this set piece is you have to ascend Comms Tower A, because at the top of it we have to. I don't even remember why we're going there. Is it
So,
something you have to patch into the tower? Am I saying this?
so I think from what the Metal Gear is on the underground basement to the north, but you can't go overground because of glaciers. This is how fresh this is in my head. So you have to go underground via the communications tower,
That's it.
traverse the communications towers because they're joined
Mm-hmm.
in two separate tiers, and then you have to go back down the second communication tower
That's
to
right.
get to the facility where Metal Gear is stored. It doesn't make any sense, but
No,
it's just
but it's
go there and yeah.
video game anime. So you have to basically what goes on is you walk into Comms Tower A, you go through a door and you set off an alarm. And then it is a run and gun up. I don't know how many floors, but it goes on forever.
Forever.
And
A memorable amount of floors.
there's enemies coming at you from the front. There's enemies that are infinitely respawning from behind. They run faster than you, and it is just a case of the way I did it was I put on the body armor, equipped my FAMAS, and just
Oh, just
tried
didn't
not to
stop,
stop.
held the trigger, yeah.
Just tried not to stop and just ran up, but I died there so many times. It's just a brutally hard, needlessly hard section of the game that makes
Because
very
this is
little
really funny
sense.
because it's kind of like because this is obviously built into the top of the communication tower, and then we go into the hind fight after this. We
Yeah.
go into essentially the two phases of the hind fight,
Hmm.
but it's done
It,
in this like massively seamless sequence where you go comms tower, repel, hind,
Yeah.
comms tower, hind.
Yeah. And
the
and go ahead.
can I just bring it back to the climb, because
Yes,
that
yes, by all means.
is actually one of my favorite parts, in a sort of masochistic way,
Okay.
and that I just glorified it maybe in my head, in my memory. But you have the FAMAS, you're running, shooting up, he kind of aims up, you turn
Snake
around down.
runs
I
at
remember
45
throwing,
degree angles.
yeah, I remember throwing a lot of chaff grenades,
Stun
um,
grenades.
stun
Hand
grenades. That
grenades.
must have been it.
Chaff would be in Tower
I
B.
Yes.
Hard B. Oh yes, yes, yes. But it was the distance and the how long you kept running up. This was 1998, and
Hmm.
it just seemed such a significant challenge. At the same time, in 1998, you had Final Fantasy VII,
Hmm.
and near the start of that, you've got a staircase to climb a Shinra tower,
Hmm.
and it is 60 floors of flights of stairs that
Yeah.
you're going up, up, and up, and there's enemies fighting as you go up to.
It's just
And it was just
needless. I love
both
these like
same time.
the game is peppered with these like infinite sequences of you're in alert mode and you just have to run and gun. Like it does just throw the stealth aspect away and throws you into it has to give you some action, I suppose, in that
Hmm.
regard. But it's the monotony of the spiral of the stairs. But I think because the camera is in this,
It's fixed
what's
position.
really it's
Hmm.
beautiful
Yeah,
because the camera just spins
Hmm.
and as Snake ascends, so it's actually like creates this illusion that from the development side of the game, it looks like you don't actually traverse the floor. The camera just spins in tow.
Yeah, it is great. It is because when I was playing it, I was like, "God, this is like the most Final Fantasy thing in this game," because there is like a mini sequence, as you said, where you rappel. So you get once you beat the climb, which is a pain, but apparently Cardinal's favorite part. I mean, each to their own, mate. Once you get to the top, Liquid meets you with a Russian
Behind D.
helicopter and just starts unleashing hell, blows up the path between tunnel A or Tower A, Tower B, which leaves you with no choice but to jump off the side of a building and rappel your way down, which is again another pain of a section
Oh, I
because
don't
basically
understand it. Yeah.
you have to avoid Liquid, who's just panning and just unleashing machine gun. So you have to avoid that. We also have to avoid Steam, but the Steam is everywhere. Like
The
I
steam
just
is
beat
in
it by going straight
diagonal,
down.
straight lines.
Oh, it's
It
everywhere.
just.
It's
I died
everywhere.
6 inches from the ground. That's how bad that play came to me several
When
times.
when I died a couple of times getting down the building, and I just went to him. I'm just going to go down in a straight line and just rampage it, and it's exactly what I did. I got to the bottom with very little health. I had to use 2 rations to build my health back up.
Now,
But
there is a really strange part about this then. So you rappel down successfully to the lower tower,
yes,
and then I can't remember if the game continues to stay in like alert mode because there's 3 guards that sit on the opposite end.
yes, and you have
But
to take
my
them out with
playthrough,
Nikita missiles.
they didn't engage me. So I put
Ooh,
the C4 on the door behind me, blew off the ice. Then I
yes,
just took out my PSG-1 and just sniped them. But they never engaged at all with me, so I can't tell if it's maybe something in the PS5
well, that's really
that.
random because
So they just.
Wow.
in my
So
playthrough, as soon as I did the same, use C4 blow up the ice in the door to make it an easier descent. And then as soon as I took like 3 steps from that door, they just annihilated me with machine gun fire. I had to use
then
Nikita missiles because
I
they were just
fired the
annihilating
Nikita
me.
and I fired the Nikita missile and they shot it down.
I could do that, like they can do that.
So I just lay on the PSG-1. I must have just been far enough that they're
Just out their
that
aggro range.
exactly, yeah. So I just like shot them,
Yeah.
shot them, shot them, and just made that section a little bit strange because I was looking at them going like, why is no one shooting at me? Well, I'm going to shoot them. And then
Like,
just had a wee little nice dander up to the top of Com Tower B.
B, which is a lot easier. I mean, did we need to go up a second tower? Probably not. Was Kojima probably trying to pad out the game? Yes, definitely.
Definitely.
But did the tower need to have all of those machine gun cameras? Most certainly not. It was there. It's designed to take some options off off your player by using your chaff grenades, and it's also there to take
It's
a fair wee bit of your energy off to make the boss fight that's just around the corner a wee bit harder. But before we get to the boss fight, we have to talk about the most bizarre scene in Metal Gear 1, which is you get to the top of Comms Tower B, you're just about to go up onto the roof to fight Liquid, and Otacon makes his grand reappearance with his active camouflage suit, and he asks Snake a very important question. Snake, do you believe love can bloom on the battlefield?
oh,
And it's just like, mate, this isn't the time for this at all. What are you
because he
doing?
declares his love for Sniper Wolf,
No,
doesn't he? He's
not
just
yet. You don't know who he's talking about, but he says he's in love with someone, and he doesn't know if she's in love with him, and what should he do about it? And is it real love?
aye,
Snake's
or is it
like,
just endorphins and adrenaline?
yeah.
Yes.
Can love exist on the battlefield?
There's a
Oh,
lot
we'll
of
get
like
that.
profound. It is just a lot of metaphor on war and like the futility of war, really. But Snake does just hit you back with some bangers, going like, "It doesn't really matter. We're all just gonna die anyway."
I know, I know. It's so good. And then we go up, and then we fight Liquid in the Hind D. Hind D.
It's a
Oh,
nuisance of a
dude.
boss fight though, because this one, because you do just have to
Wait.
stinger missile, and then when he goes low, you just track him with the stinger, wait
Mm-hmm.
till him to pop up, and you just
Have
annihilate
at
him.
it. Yeah, there's no challenge in this boss fight. It's relatively simple as long as you unequipped the Nikita fast enough to avoid his retaliatory machine
Oh
gun
yeah.
fire, you're fine. There's nothing really. There's no secret to it. It's just literally just blast it until it falls from the
And
sky,
then
and then he says the greatest line in the game. After he blows the hind out of the sky and it hits the ground and kabooms, he gets on the phone to Colonel and he's like, "Colonel, the hind D is down." And he's like, "Yes, and with liquid in it." He's like, "Well, that takes care of the cremation." It's just so good. It's too good. It's
it's
amazing. What a
brilliant.
line. The man is cold. He is cold. So, yes, so we have killed Liquid.
So we think,
Ooh.
and I just want to pause it here because we are talking about this Hind D fight years later. I was in another guy's living room, and he was showing, "Oh, you got to see, I'm playing Metal Gear again, right?" And it was like a PS3, maybe, or
Mm-hmm.
something. I don't know what he was playing it on, but it was a different version of the game. And during this fight, Snake jumps on top of a rocket that's
Oh,
firing
that's Twin
towards the
Snakes.
Hind D,
That's Twin Snakes.
and he's riding it like a surfboard.
Seriously.
And it's like,
Yes.
hang on, this is too far. Like, okay, I get, yeah, Psycho Mantis, everything that's happened here, but the standing on the rocket, no.
I think they've
It's
obviously like the port came much later, didn't it? The Twin Snakes one.
Twin Snakes 2000. I think it's the same year as Resident Evil 4. You know, I think it was like
So I think
2004, I
what
think.
they've done is they've let everything escalate. They've realized what's escalated, and then they went, "Let's put a bit of that ridiculous back into the OG."
I
Bit of
can't
jazz.
I can't remember
Yeah,
who made the Twin Snakes, but it wasn't Kojima. Like he had nothing to do with it.
that's so
It was
interesting.
outsourced to another developer. I can't remember who made it, but yeah, Twin Snakes is a bizarre remake. Looks gorgeous though because it uses the Metal Gear Solid 2 engine. Looks great, but yeah, it's just wild. Like they fully embraced the like anime stylings of it and went
That's
full
it.
anime, and it's bonkers. Also super expensive to buy now, so you're looking about 200 quid for that in GameCube.
Aye, it's a
Mad.
real commodity right now, isn't it?
Didn't sell well.
After the Hind, so I'm just going to bring this back now. I have a gap in my notes here, but
Captain America left.
that's right. Yes.
So you meet Otacon. He says, "Can
Left.
love exist on the battlefield, Snake?" And he's like, "Listen, kid, I didn't die in Zanzibar for this nonsense. Battlefield, battlefield. I'm old enough to see death." Um, Snake he needs the lift working, but it's broken. So he says to Otacon, "Can you fix this?" And he's like, "Well, dude,
It's
I
fine. It's
invented a
already working.
walking
Yeah.
nuclear firing battle tank. I can fix a lift, you fool. It's a cargo elevator, belt driven. Take me 10 minutes." So you get back and Otacon rings and he's like, "Yeah, that lift's working now, mate. I just used it." And Snake gets on the lift. But
There's a twist.
when he gets on, the load exceeded buzzer goes off. But Snake's alone. So he rings Otacon and he's like, "Otacon, mate, here, this lift isn't working. There's a weight limit and it's exceeded. It must be 600 kgs. I only weigh 130." And
Do
then
the math.
Otacon was like, "Well, that's weird. The same thing happened with me, Snake. And also, I forgot to tell you,
There's an
I,
awful
for-
lot. Otacon forgets to tell an awful
I
lot of things.
forgot
I've
to tell
noticed.
you that when I went back to my office to get my camouflage, I had 5 sets of it, but now I only had one, which means I'm missing 4, Snake." And he's like, and it's the most
It's a
anime thing because his
big
character
pan in
icon
his
goes
face.
right into his face, and he's like, "They're in the lift with you, Snake." And sure enough, you equip your goggles, your thermal goggles, and there's 4 guys in the lift with you, and
Cigarettes.
you have to destroy them as the lift's going down. And it's actually quite difficult because the camera angle is really weird. It's like at a really acute
At an
angle to the
angle, yeah.
Diagonal.
ground,
Yeah.
and it's like I don't know if it was just the emulator, but it felt almost as if my controls were reversed because of the camera angle, where Snake didn't seem to move where my brain was saying he should move. And I don't
I
know if it was
it's in
it
relation
felt
to.
weird.
I think there's something as well on the PlayStation 5. I think they're awaiting a patch on the controls for Snake on that, but it was a similar thing. You're actually going in relation to the camera, not in relation to
That's
Snake,
to
which I thought was
Snake.
yeah. So that was interesting because like Snake has to plant his feet to fire his guns, whereas these guys can kind of
Move.
semi run and gun. So it made
Yeah.
it a little bit difficult. Plus, the
Um,
stealth camouflage evidently acts as body armor because like they could be dropped and then they'll get back up.
3 times each.
Yeah,
Three. You're killing them 12 times. It's a fight against 12 enemies effectively. And the worst part is because of the stealth camouflage, the auto aim doesn't lock onto
work.
them.
Yeah,
So you have to spin in the spot. I found it quite difficult that part. I didn't die, but by the time I got to the bottom, my health was really, really low. Really low.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Um,
so tricky.
but then this is like
Great
th-
action though.
this part of the game is like a gauntlet almost. So you've had Comms Tower A, Comms Tower B, a hind fight in between, the Captain America lift fight, and then you exit the lift, exit the building, and you're in a fight straight away. You're in Sniper
That's
Wolf
right.
2,
Yeah, Sniper Wolf 2.
and it's like a gauntlet. There, you can save at any time in Metal Gear Solid, so it's not that big a deal. But if you haven't saved before you go up to that hind D,
That's right. You're in.
you're going
You're
right
thrown
back.
right back.
So yeah, and
Sniper
then
Wolf 2 I struggled with because I think you just said you just find her, just shoot her. And I'm like
just
going,
find
yes,
her.
the problem is you have to find her the first time.
Yes,
So you have to find her before she shoots you first. The second that she shoots and moves,
then
you're
it's the
constantly
fight's
chasing
restarted.
her. Yeah,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
But I actually, fun fact, was told about this the other day by a friend of mine. Uh, you could just hide in the corner and do your guided rockets.
I mean, it's
I
exactly what I was going to say.
Oh,
like
You
never
hide in the
dawned on me.
corner.
Never dawned on
Um,
me.
I remember this is how much Metal Gear impacted me as a younger man. I remember reading the strategy guide for Metal Gear Solid 1 when I bought it for the PlayStation.
nice.
And one of the strategies they said to use against Sniper Wolf in both fights is run towards like a structure of some description and then pull out your PSG-1 because the structure messes with her AI in order to target you because it'll bounce between a wall and the structure and it'll save you a whole load of headaches. So you can do the guided missile. So in the first Sniper Wolf fight, I planted myself beside to the left of the door. There's like a
Okay.
pillar and a bin. I planted myself right beside the pillar and I got hit once. And then in Sniper Wolf 2, I ran towards the door to um, the original building and there's another pillar there. Planted myself there. She hit me once. The fight was easy. Fight was easy. I had no issues with it. Finder was the only difficult thing, but she just hides along a tree, so you're
Yeah, yeah.
it's just a case of panning back and forth till you find her. Once you
I
hit her
had no
once,
diazepam for that second fight as well, so
oh,
I had to do
Oh,
everything completely au naturel, we'll say.
this
It
is
was
going to
horrific.
this is going to kill you. Then before you get onto the lift, if you go round the walkway, there's diazepam, there's a couple of rations, and
Yeah.
there are some FAMAS and stuff bullets there. But yeah, that's a nightmare because we haven't mentioned that the mechanic for the sniper rifle is Snake has lousy aim, and your reticle will just sway back and forth, and it's horrible, and it's you can't use it, and then you have to take diazepam tablets in order to calm your nerves and give you good
For a
solid
hardened
aim.
soldier as well to take over the counter med seems a bit bizarre, like, but
And he can only fire it on its stilts.
on his
He's
stomach, yeah.
prone. Like, why is he? I don't
So, but
know.
then we dispatch her.
I remember. Sorry,
Otacon. Oh yes,
sorry.
no,
No,
yeah. Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
remember finding diazepam in my family home uh, after years later, and I was like, "Who's the sniper? Who the house is the?"
Oh, that's amazing.
But fun fact though, they did give snipers diazepam during World War II for that
All right.
precise reason. It's a muscle
Well,
relaxant.
I'm pretty sure that like Naomi or Master Miller tell you that and stuff as well in all of your
Mm.
hilarious. Oh no, Natasha tells you it at one point.
Natasha tells you, yeah,
Who I
yeah.
never spoke to this entire playthrough, by the way.
No, near did I. Near did I.
So
Actually forgot she existed.
I never got her codec number at all.
um, once you defeat her in that second fight, then you have one of the best scenes in the game, to be fair to it, her death. And this is where
hmm.
Otacon comes out, declares his undying love for her as she lies bleeding out in the battlefield. Um, and the whole way through it is against really beautiful music, but in the background there's the wolves are howling as she dies, and then she asks Snake to blow her brains out effectively. I'm not making
Aye.
it. Just blow my and then he just cold like Otacon just come out with I love you. Why did you do this? Snake, I asked you not to do this. And he's like, I had to. It's a battlefield.
But then he does the
It
thing because
blows her brains out right in
you get
front of him.
given in a previous section you get given
Her
the handkerchief with
handkerchief.
her scent on it so the wolves don't attack you. So you put the handkerchief on her face to like as a burial, and then
Yeah.
Snake's Otacon's like, "Why'd you do that?" He's like, "I don't need a dead woman's handkerchief."
it's just he's just absolutely cold blooded. And he's like, Snake, what was she fighting for? Snake, what are we fighting for? Snake, what are you fighting for?
Otacon's very much like this child who just asks nothing but like these profound questions, but back to back to back. But
It's
then he
Yeah,
hits you with like you kind of just go, "You be the man you want to be," and then you go to leave, and then Otacon just runs off. Sorry,
yeah.
my
Otacon,
full
what are
head
you
was.
doing here in Alaska
He just
building
runs
a
out into the
nuclear
snow. That's
bipedal
it.
tank?
He just runs out into the snow, going, "I'm gonna find out who I am," and then just disappears. That's it. Like,
yeah,
if you depends on like what the ending you did in the torture, how you get on in the torture scene,
yeah.
you may not see Otacon for the rest of the game.
He might
That's
just
it.
die. Yeah. Well, not die, but disappear. Is that is that that's the part where where he goes, Snake, what do you fight for? Me. I'm just a guy that's good at killing.
They were underselling how good
It
David
is.
Hayter was
Oh,
as a
we'll
as.
talk about the voice acting once we get through the story. So we kill Sniper Wolf, and then we have to go to the Metal Gear store production facility, effectively. So
Yeah,
we go through
So,
the blast furnace,
hated it.
and then we go down another lift. Well, there's two lifts, but when you get
The
onto the
lifts are
first
so
one,
long, and you can't skip any
oh
of them. It's all just it's more stuff with Miller. Naomi might be a terrorist.
yeah. The first lift as well, you get spotted, and then four other guys will jump on. It's a lot easier than the first one because they're not stealth or anything like that. And then you get down the bottom, and it's all frozen for some reason. So you just been through a blast furnace, and now all of a sudden everything's frozen. And then you enter the door, and it is the second best boss fight in the game. It is
Vulcan 2,
Vulcan
isn't it? Yeah.
Raven has come
Vulcan.
to do battle with you once and for all, and it gives you that great speech. Do you know what I like doing, Snake? We call it pulling ears. It's just like it is a physical and spiritual challenge. Let's pull each other's ears. And Snake's like,
So
what?
his boss fight was quite good. It's just basically avoid him, avoid the falling debris,
Mm,
and just hit him with. I hit it with stinger missiles. Basically, as soon as the
did
stinger
you?
became readily available, I just
Yeah.
hit him with stinger missiles.
I just walloped on my thermal goggles and put claymores absolutely everywhere and just figured of it around the whole thing, and he died instantly. But well, that's what I really, really like about that fight. It's only like one of two fights in this game where you can actually choose how you do it. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
options for that. You can sneak in behind him and hit him with the FAMAS and his tank on his back, and it does damage to him. You can use claymores, you can use Nikita missiles, you can use Stinger
C4.
missiles,
Yeah,
C4. There's
there's a
so
whole
many options,
range.
but the could you just like I just go for it, mate. Have fun with that one, and it's really good. It's not too difficult. Although if he sees you, he absolutely annihilates your health
Oh
with
yeah, yeah.
his
That
big, massive
Vulcan
Gatling
cannon
gun.
is yeah.
There's the sound, right, of him walking is like a huge clink, 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 with
Yes,
all this big stuff on it. And then when he starts coming out, it's like clink, 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 clink.
But his
There's a,
code of vision was really interesting because
it's
it's so
massive,
wide and it's so
massive.
far, so he can nearly see you from the full length of the arena, essentially.
Yeah, and he talks as well. And I was playing it obviously on Steam Deck, so I had my earphones in, and you can tell where his location is based on how he sounds. So if
Oh
he's
yeah, how
far
far near
away
away?
from
Yeah,
you on your left hand side, he only come out of one speaker and stuff. It's really, really, really well thought out. Just again, Kojima just
super clever. Yeah.
brilliant. It's a brilliant boss fight, and then he dies, and
He does this weird,
he
profound thing as well, where he gets
lets the ravens eat his body.
but he sits there and
yeah.
goes like, "Oh, you're a snake. You're not meant for this world. You're an abomination." And they
Hmm.
basically like go on ahead. we've laid a trap for you, but I'm not going to tell you what it
what it
is.
is, and then you go on
Uh,
your merry way, and then
that takes you into the Metal Gear
Metal
hangar.
Gear hangar, and that's the first time you see Metal Gear, and then you make your way around that room. You hear the
Lots of climbing.
plan, lots of climbing, lots of running. One guard, just one guard that like infinitely respawns.
Yeah.
And then you get to the control room where you overhear a conversation. Totally, they had no idea that you were listening to them. Like, totally had no idea you were there between Ocelot and Liquid, and they're saying, "Yes, we inputted the codes. We're ready to launch." He's like, "Yes, we have one more hour. The Americans have to give us the remains of Big Boss."
And then they talk about how they've changed the demands because the vaccine for the Foxdie virus. So everything is
Yes,
then, so they throw in this other trope, this other plot point,
this
kind
new
of just out of the
thing.
blue.
And then Snake rings Colonel and asks what Foxdie is. He doesn't know. Miller says, "Ask Naomi."
And
You
then
ask
Naomi
Naomi, and then
it
she
was
ends up,
inserted with the nanomachines, yeah. So then
yes,
they talk about how she changed the code, and there's a bit of Lord of, you find out her connection with Grey Fox.
yeah, her,
It's quite harrowing actually, like, her story as well, and then she like has this crisis of identity, and because of what happened in Zanzibar, she's
yeah,
basically has this whole sub story for revenge,
yes.
all
So
while you're within earshot of
of
Liquid
Snake,
and
Liquid, and Ocelot, like two
Ocelot.
guys have tried to kill you by any means necessary. So yeah, so you find out all that. Naomi ends up getting arrested and removed from the team. But yeah, basically she has her own agenda for sending for you being there, and she's effectively give you fox dye in your blood, which has been coded for certain genetics. So you have been sent to Shadow Moses Island to kill every major player in the story. You're there to kill the arms tech guy, the DARPA chief, and all these terrorists by with Fox Eye. Effectively, it's just a really, really, really interesting side story that only gets better the more games we play through. Because especially, isn't it Metal Gear Solid 2, where the revelation of Naomi Hunter's body being found, but Naomi was still alive and
Maybe in
working?
4, I think it
Was
was
it
in
4?
I think it's in
And
4,
then
yeah,
you
because Naomi
realize
doesn't
that
come back until then, yeah.
the Naomi that was in Metal Gear Solid 1 was actually an imposter.
Yeah, it just gets lunacy upon lunacy
It's
on it,
just
like, so
mad. But
so this is
the,
the part you're given the PAL key. So you have the PAL key and
you
you're
have the
told
PAL key because you
you
get that
need to,
from Meryl. And
yeah, so you
then,
need to use it to deactivate Metal Gear.
but as you overhear the conversation between Liquid and Ocelot, you drop the key card.
This no, it's you get a codec call, then Ocelot is watching you on the security camera,
Yes, that's it.
and he shoots the door, and then Snake stumbles and
And
drops the
then
PAL key.
drops the key card. And
I hate this. I
you have
genuinely
to
hate this moment.
you go on a rat hunt, you shoot the rat, get the key card back, and then it's a terrible section of the game because clearly they were like, Ugh.
What can we do? But this doesn't make any sense though, because like you're at the control room, you drop the key card, you have to go down across the full width of the map, pick up the key
Mhm,
card, go back, go up again, then you have to do the cutscene with the PAL key
the PAL keys. And then
to
that's
be told how the alloy changes. Then you have to go back 3, 4 times,
yeah,
do
yeah.
that puzzle
You have
essentially.
you have to do them in order. So the whole game they've been going, how does the PAL key work? How does the PAL key work? So effectively it's an alloy, you heat it, you kill it, it changes properties, and each state of the key is a key card, but you have to put them in a certain order. So neutral, hot, cold,
Cold then hot.
cold,
So
and then
hot's the
hot,
last one because hot
cold,
you have to go up the 2 lifts into the
To the
blast furnace.
furnace.
and then wait
Just
there for
hang
three
around.
minutes.
Yeah.
And then go back. One thing I did notice is if you mess about, so obviously when you're backtracking through the game to do these key card things, they spawn in more genome soldiers. And I didn't realize that if you have the hot key card, if you hang about in Falcon Raven's room too long, it goes to cold
Too
and you have
cold,
to
yeah.
go all the way back to come back
You also
again.
have to, I think the either Otacon or Campbell mentioned that to keep it warm, keep it equipped because then it's keeping
Your
it's
body
staying
heat.
with your body heat. So it's
Yeah.
silly with things like that. Like the actual like probably go a bit more into the mechanics of the game, but like the key card system to have it permanently equipped to open and close doors
Yes.
is the single most frustrating thing
Yeah.
on earth. But
Yeah,
well,
it's wild. But effectively, you do the card, and then Liquid goes a bit daft, explains that you used to your brothers, that you used to your clones
so
of
no, sorry,
Big
no.
Boss.
Can we maybe circle that back to that? It's a bit more dramatic than that. This whole discussion you've had with Master Miller the whole time. It
Oh
turns out,
yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
Miller's like, "Thank you, Snake. We can now do the attack and blah blah blah."
You
And it,
fool.
what blows my mind is he just then takes the sunglasses off,
The hair comes out.
unbuns the hair, and I'm like, "That is the worst disguise ever." Because then Liquid then goes face to face. How did you like my sunglasses? Just
It's so good. So
but
he explains that he was Master Miller the whole time. He was trying to get you. They couldn't work out how the card worked. In fact, they didn't even have the card. He explains that you're brothers, that you're clones of Big Boss. You got all the dominant genes. He got all the recessive genes. It turns into this pity party for Liquid Snake, who's like, "Oh, why are you so much
it
better
kind of
than
makes
me?
the yeah,
Oh,
it kind of makes
Daddy
the
loved
terrorist
you
plot
more."
seem a lot less driven. That
Impactful.
yeah, there's not really much. It seems like jealous now more than
Yeah.
anything.
And then he challenges you to a fight to see who truly is the best of Big Boss's clones. And then he promptly runs into Metal Gear Rex and kickstarts a nuclear equipped battle tank to take on a man. And it is a horrible boss fight. Horrible boss fight.
Because it's a two-phase boss essentially, but you
Yeah.
have to hit it. You have to take down the entirety of its health twice.
Yes. Using this
Yeah.
the Stinger missiles, which you cannot move using. And
Chaff grenades are your big
uh
friend here because it takes away
yes.
it takes away the target and system missile, and
Mhm.
you just run and gun base or as much as you can basically.
Yeah.
The problem with that is the time it takes for you to get off one shot. Your chaff grenade has already ran out, and he's already a
Yeah.
missile on you. So
it's a it's a
arduous.
it's a brutally hard fight that goes on for far too long. And once you beat the first phase, I remember beating the first phase, and I was like, "Yes, thank goodness we can get on to the final battle." But nope. um, he goes a bit bananas, opens up the cockpit window, starts slabbering to you about how useless you are, how Daddy loved you more than he loves me, blah blah blah. And then he goes to stomp you into oblivion, and then Grey Fox comes back. He has somehow attached a laser rifle to his arm, and
That's right. Yes.
he takes on the battle tank. Um, Halfway through him anime fighting this massive Gundam, he finds time to have a conversation with Snake about how what his backstory a little bit, how they're still friends even though they battled to the death in Zanzibar,
That's it.
how
Yeah.
In a minefield.
there's no hard feelings. And then he goes on to explain that he adopted Naomi because he was the one that killed her parents and was
And
meant
he
to
felt
kill
bad for it.
her.
Yeah.
So he adopted her but never told her. And he says,
It's
"I'm dying
funny.
today. Tell her when
It
I've
is.
died."
Yeah. It is really funny with him though because he suddenly isn't crazy anymore. Weird sense of clarity and purpose,
Yeah.
and he's just like, "No, no, no, you've been mental this whole game. Why are we like suddenly?" Because I didn't realize as well, he actually has the mask open,
Yeah, the mask's open.
but
Yeah.
because it's 1998, he has no facial expression or
No,
facial features, which I thought
no.
was brilliant.
And it leads to this moment that I think could have been really brilliant, but for some reason Kojima shied away from it. Was he's like, you have to destroy the radar, you have to destroy the gun. That's how you defeat this machine. And then he's like, I will get you an opening to do that. And then he jumps up, blasts it a few times, and then Liquid has him cornered. And he's like, come on, Snake, take the shot. And then if you try to take a shot, Snake will go, I can't, I can't. No.
That's it. So you just have to sort of wait. That basically it's a interactive cutscene.
It's like what do you call it? It's like a one of those psychological tests. Do you see a monkey or a castle?
Yeah.
Are you going to take the shot? And then it kickstarts into phase two. Phase two is just exactly the same. The only thing it changes is you're no longer aiming towards a dish, you're aiming at liquid, and then you
Yeah.
blow it up. You blow it up, nothing changes, and then you
The
somehow he survives.
only nuisance about that boss fight is if you die midway through phase two,
You go right back to
the
the
start of
phase
phase
one.
one,
Yeah,
which
man.
is just so frustrating. Like even if it was just even if
A
the
cutscene.
stinger on at the cutscene was a save state, that would be perfect. But
Yeah.
I can't understand that for why.
I
But
know, nor could I, because I died in the second phase, and I was like, "Are you serious? That
several
cutscene's not
times.
the soft save." But no, it's not. It's annoying, but there is tactics and ways to do it. Like you can just
Stood
coax
under
Metal
his
Gear into
legs the
just
whole
using the
time.
laser, yeah, and just annihilate it that way. But then, yeah, you destroy it. Liquid Snake is still
Indestructible,
alive.
apparently, yeah.
And he's like, "We will do this the old-fashioned way, Snake. Meet me on top of Metal Gear. I mean, you're gonna have a fist fight, mate." Oh, by the way, there's Meryl and a
Oh,
bomb.
by the way, Meryl's alive, yeah.
And there's a bomb beside her, Snake. And you know how you stop that? From defeating me in mono a mono combat. And it is an awful boss fight. It is
the
awful.
the arena's not great, but I quite like just the running around CQCing each other,
But
and then he'll occasionally charge you.
it literally devolves into him running, you hit them with a 3-hit combo, and then just following him to his next point where he's going to stop. 3-hit combo, follow him to the next. It's literally a game of tag atop a destroyed mech and hoping you
That's
can do it in
easy to
6 minutes.
That's easy for you to say when you've got the superior genes.
I
That's
mean,
it.
Think
yes.
how
Yes.
hard Liquid's
See,
fighting there
what
with its
what also
recessives.
what also cracks me up about this, it's only for the fact that Liquid in this fight is that I made this point. Why is Liquid shirtless? If he's not in just a trench coat and no shirt, he's just got no shirt on. Also, he's made a conscious decision to fight you here because at
Yeah.
the end of the fight you pick up your sneaking suit and you put your
Yes.
sneaking suit back on. Has made a conscious decision to strip you to
He
fight you
has.
shirtless.
So it's shirtless and shirtless, mono a mono. Yeah. It's never
Yeah.
explained why he strips you while you're unconscious. It's kind of weird,
Cinematic experience.
but
Because
it's
it's like
wonderful.
you climb off Metal Gear, Meryl comes to, you catch her, she swoons at you, and then
Yes.
Snake nearly doesn't swoon back. He just goes, "My sneaking suit."
I know. Wait a minute. And then the
You book it. This is it.
facility
Oh yeah.
starts self-destructing almost, and it's a classic PlayStation 1 trope of we've finished the game, but not quite because the place is going to explode. So get out in the
We've
set
been
10
told
minutes.
in sort of been told in the meantime, and like the Secretary of State has took control of the
Th-
operation. He's arrested Campbell, but it turns out the Secretary of State was in on this the whole time, so he
Yeah,
had interest in the production of Metal Gear.
Metal
So
Gear. And he
they've then basically, to have deniability, they've sent him B-52s.
yeah, and they're going to bomb the whole thing and
That's
wipe
right.
out every single
Shred of
scrap
evidence.
of
Yeah.
evidence. So we need to get out now. So we jump into the back of a um, jeep and we take off through a tunnel.
Hate this
And
sequence because it's the security camera at the start, and it's Meryl again, and it could be helped part of the game, but Meryl runs up. A surveillance camera.
yeah, what do we do with this? It's like,
God
shut up,
damn it.
Errol. Well, we're 8 hours in, man. But every room has a surveillance camera apparently in this place. Some
You're
rooms
not
are.
so green now. Come on.
Let's go here. She jumps in the front, and you man the gun in the back, and it is a ridiculous sequence of things. It's just flying through a tunnel in a straight line, and Liquid Snake comes back because, of course, he's not dead. Because, of course, he isn't. And he just gives chase with a machine gun and will unleash hell upon you.
Yeah.
And it's just survive, and there's no stakes in it. There's nothing. Like, it's very, very,
It's
very
survive.
cinematic.
It's take your lumps and basically like try and stumble him as much as you can, and it's a fixed distance, it's a fixed time, so it's you're seeing up the clock basically to get to
Yeah.
the final cutscene.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah, there's very little to say about that part apart from how annoying it is. And then the game ends with you crashing. Liquid is going to blow your head off, and then he takes a heart attack. The fox die finally got him. And that is it. You and Meryl or
Fox,
Otacon
Die.
die.
jump
That's,
on jump on a jet ski and go off into the
that's right. Yeah, Campbell comes
brave
on
new
and goes,
world.
"Oh, by the way, yeah, like it's all
Only joking,
grand.
mate.
There's no bombers coming. I'm in charge again.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
you
mean, and
decide who you want to
also
be. Yeah,
I quit. I'm no longer Colonel. Call me Roy. He's like, oh yeah, Roy. Sorry about that, mate.
that's it.
But
We're all
yeah,
cool. We're friends again.
yeah, and that's the story of Metal Gear Solid and all of his intricacies. There's very little left to talk about in this thing. Let's talk about the the thing we've all been skirting around, the voice acting.
Beautiful,
It's
absolute. It's I love how when they introduce the character, they put the brackets of who the voice actor, like the US voice actors, at
yes,
least anyway. I think that's great. I just think the line delivery as well is so good,
yeah,
and it's such a great part of the storytelling. Like, the in-game mechanics and everything that the story of Metal Gear, but I think it's nothing without like that cinematic aspect
hmm it
of
totally like
elevates it.
you think Resident Evil came out 1996. This came out in 1998. So in just over 2 years, it went from I hope that's not Chris's blood to this game, and it is like a generational leap in voice acting in video games. It is
Yeah,
frighteningly good, and it is camp and it is cheesy, but the voice actors give such earnest performances that it suits the tone of the game so perfectly. And it is we've been quoting it all episode here. It is absolutely iconic
but I think
voice
we
acting.
we have like the little tiny quips and stuff as well. But like the more I think the recency of it as well. There's there's far more quotable parts to this game than we've ever remembered. I think initially,
Yes. Yes.
just and it has. I think that's what's so impactful and what actually sticks with this so much is how
Yeah.
quotable it is. It's like my even going back to Vulcan 1, and he just hits you with, "Why don't you crawl on the floor like the snake
Like
you
you
are?"
are. It's so good, man. It's just Otacon, I think, or not Otacon, Ocelot, sorry, is underrated. Probably the best performance in the game is by Revolver Ocelot's voice actor. Just brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Menacing, clean, clear. He's clearly a man with a plan and he knows exactly what he's doing at every step of the way.
Oh,
Was
like the
Liquid
stinger at the end.
Yes, yes, the stinger at the end. I forgot about that bit. The final thing is a phone call or codec call
Oh,
between
Codec call,
yes.
yeah.
Ocelot and someone. It's a phone call because
He's the
the other
president. He
voice,
says he's talking to the president or something.
yes,
Yeah.
the voice is like, which is like the classic old phone call, and he's like, yes, we have the data, and we have the construction data and the battle data for Metal Gear. Yes, the inferior one won. Turns out he's just better in battle. Yes, that is right, Mr. President. It's like, yes. And
Ocelot's playing the
Solidus,
long game.
yeah, Ocelot is brilliant in this. Like his voice actor is so brilliant, and he gets across that character so well. Like when you meet him in the boss room, he's just sitting there with Kenneth Baker tied up against a pillar, and he's just spinning his revolver around his hand, just looking dead cool. He's a man in total control at all times. Even when he gets his hand cut off, he just goes and
He just
sorts the problem out,
carries
wraps it
on,
up.
yeah.
In the torture scene, he's menacing. You know, do you have
He's
another
not
one
actually
in you,
typically a
Snake?
villain either. He's one of those characters nearly plays devil's advocate on both ends because even
Hmm.
when he has the exchange with Snake in the torture room, he's very much like, I'm going to let you in on these plans. Whether or
Yeah,
not you survive or not to do anything with this information is up to you.
yeah.
Uh, so great character. He's really like his development kind of stutters a little bit in part 2, but
Yes,
that's I
yeah.
think where the nonsense kind of like escalates from it then.
Yeah, but in one he's brilliant. Like even the very fact of they strip you to torture you, and then when you get your gear back, he has expected you to escape, so has put a bomb in your bag because he knows you're going to escape, because he has thought of that eventuality. And
Yeah.
unlike Liquid, as good as Liquid is very, he's a passionate enemy. You know, we've made fun of him there towards the end. He is Gurney, you know, oh, daddy loved you more than me. Why are you so much better than me? Blah, blah, blah. Even in the Hind fight, he gets very angry very quickly with Snake and ups the ante by starting blasting him with missiles and rockets and all this here sort of stuff. Whereas Revolver is just totally in control all the time
Yeah.
because he's playing a different game from everyone else. It's brilliant. The voice acting is superb. The voice acting is amazing at all times, even in the incidental voices in the game itself. Huh?
It has to be. It has to be. You're talking about Hideo Kojima. He's one of these guys that watches a movie every day.
Yeah.
From
Exactly. Yeah.
Japan, from the American, whatever, wherever it's from, and he's just a top
For being so
action
passionate
games
about.
and movies, but also like well acted, good
Yeah.
stuff. He wanted the. It's a cinematic gaming experience,
Yeah. And
and
it's
he wanted
awesome.
to be that way.
It's awesome, and that goes even as far as the music in this game because we talked about
Oh,
this. The opening track is just again iconic. Like as soon as when I put this up, I haven't played this game in since the PlayStation 3 when I bought it on the PS Classic. I haven't played this game in a decade, I would say. And as soon as the Konami symbol comes up, it was like do do
Do,
do
do,
do do
do,
do.
do.
That's so good, so good. The music throughout the whole
it's so
entire
iconic
game
though.
is
Even
amazing.
the intro, it's like nearly like the title of the song here. It's called "The Best Is Yet to Come." It's a vocal song. It's like it's
Is it
performed.
Irish band?
Irish,
Mm-hmm.
your Irish chick,
Yeah,
yes. It's
sure,
always done in the
Donegal.
real. Yes, that's right. It was recorded in Dublin. I remember reading a bit of this, like in
Yeah,
the credits and stuff as
Temple
well.
Studios.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So it is peppered throughout, and it's
Yeah.
peppered. It's put in at the very start, just before you land at the docks. It's put in usually whenever Snake has a deep, insightful
Yes.
thought about being on the
Whatever.
battlefield and stuff as well. So it's put in the right places for the right amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there's a particular moment where it plays through, and then there's just a silence, and then Colonel or Snake will just sign off and go like, "Oh, just be careful," and then it'll just the codec will turn off. But then there's a second again before it like fades back into the gameplay.
Yeah.
The music in this is perfect. Even the lack of music has its places, and it's done incredibly well.
It's done well. The one that sticks out on me is you go to get Meryl, you go to the toilet, you have that whole scene, and the game music is playing in that hallway, and then when they come out of the toilet, they have that like fourth wall breaking moment where it's complete silence, and Snake's like, "Where's the
Where'd
music?"
the music go? Yeah,
And it's just like, "Where'd the guards go?"
really
And
good.
it's just so good, man. Just the voice acting is brilliant, even if Snake is a bit too preoccupied with the battlefield. Not in the battlefield. I was born in the battlefield. I'm old enough to know what death looks like. But it's just so good, man. There's a reason when Hideo Kojima announced that Kiefer Sutherland was voicing Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid 5, there was uproar in the
Yeah,
gaming community because David Hayter is Solid Snake.
wasn't
There's
there
Yeah.
something though that their relationship was pretty strained? Yeah, but like
he
pre
he
game
made him re-audition
re-audition.
every
Yeah,
single time or something like that. And David Hayter was like, "Come on, man, it's been 4 games." He's like, "Nope, yeah, must re-audition."
it's just that I
And I
think
think he
that would put a
refused.
strain. I think that would put a strain on a lot of relationships that way, especially
Yeah.
when you are essentially the voice of such an iconic character.
Hmm. Yeah, it was yeah. Kiefer Sutherland did a fine job. Don't get me wrong, but he's not David Hayter.
I think
He
though
would
when you're trying to tell the story of him, he's a big boss. You kind of you see the creative choice
yep
that they make, but it doesn't
work.
for fan service. It doesn't work.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
it's Solid Snake, and that's just it.
that's
I,
Oh
it.
my
I
god.
think I heard an interview with Kurt Russell recently where he
Yes.
said he was asked for something, or would he have done the voice of Metal Gear, because he did played a character called Snake Plissken
Oh
in
yes,
Escape
in
from New
Escape
York,
from New
who
York.
had an eye patch and a mullet.
which
Uh,
was referenced in Sons of Liberty as well. Snake, he introduces
yeah,
himself as Lieutenant Pliskin.
That's right. Yes,
Liskin.
yes.
He
That's
said he'd know because he just doesn't like revisiting characters or something.
yes. Yeah.
But
It was a really non-answer,
It was
yeah,
too close to, yeah.
diplomatic. Like it was far too diplomatic. But yeah, I, anything else for the sounds? I like the incidental sounds in the game. I like when you run over the snow, it crunches.
Oh,
The
like the ambience of the diegetic stuff. Will yeah.
it's amazing. Like every material sounds different. Even the noise Snake makes when he pushes himself against the wall changes depending on the material of the wall. It's just awesome. It's just
Because that's
the game.
pointed out when you're looking for the dark or the for Kenneth Baker. It's when you have to do the C4 and it's knocking the wall on the
Yes,
painted wall spots. Yes, even just the iconic alert, the exclamation.
yes, underrated sound effect. It's
but
just
you see that in pop culture today. You remember the
mm,
Wreck It Ralph movie
that's what I was
where
gonna say.
That's it.
there
Yeah.
was the exclamation mark at one point. You know,
So like the alert, the caution music, the even the noise of the code, even the of the soliton radar kicking back in.
Yes, yes.
Just those
Uh,
little tiny bits as
the
well. All these
the
like
death,
iconic little
your
pieces.
death track as well. That's like the music
s-
it plays. Yeah, so good, so good. The sound
I
is
think
so good.
I know someone who still has the codec ringtone as
Oh,
their phone ringtone today.
Incredible, incredible. I love it. Yeah, that's I think that's sound right. Graphically, what's your thoughts on it? Especially you, Tom. I'm
I
interested
think
what you think, being the
it
youngest of us.
I think it always looked good. If not, by the time I got around to playing it proper, dated. It was very already a dated game. But I think though, when did we say the PlayStation 2 was 2000 and
2000,
2000? Yeah,
2000. Yeah,
so you're talking a couple of years difference, and then by the time Metal Gear 2 came out, it's
2001.
already a humongous leap in graphics and
I
gameplay and
mean,
stuff as
yes,
well.
I think it's really that's a really interesting point. And I'm glad you brought that up. I think people forget. I mean, we think of like consoles now as incremental improvements where for a long time I was like, I'm not buying a PS5 because I haven't seen a game that can't run on a PS4. Also, most of these games are on the PS4 too, but that's a different story for a different time. But people forget that when we went into the 90s, the Sega Master System and the Nintendo were the preeminent consoles.
Yeah,
And then by the time we were leaving that decade, it was the PlayStation 2. Like that is just you'll never see generational jumps in technology like the late 90s. I mean, like
exactly.
I remember going from the Mega Drive to the PlayStation and it blew my mind of what I couldn't believe what I was looking at. Couldn't believe it. And then again when I saw I think it was Tekken Tag Tournament. I think it was the first game Sony showed off for the PlayStation 2. And hand on heart, I thought it was like a pre-rendered thing, and it just wasn't because the generational jump was enormous. And I think
Huge.
you
That's it
go
though. Going back
three
and playing
years
it,
between Metal Gear One, Metal Gear Two, 3 years, and they're not even they're barely 3 full years.
that's
It's
it. It's just one of those
frightening.
ones. The game plays really well. Just plays as it would a introductory console, I suppose, just for being the PlayStation 1 at the time. It is like peak, I suppose. But I think it still holds as a really good game, for the console. Like I played it for the PlayStation 5. I like purposely bought it for this on the
Yeah,
PS5. And I think it just plays just as I think it just plays nicely, even on the DualSense. It responds well. Yes, there's talk of a few patches to be announced for it, like,
yeah,
but graphically, where we are and where we've been, huge difference.
yeah,
But all in all, it was a great looking game. I think even even on this it's not upscaled by any means, but I played it and then I stretched the screen ratio for it.
Oh,
Like
you went widescreen. Oh
I did.
dear.
It
No, 4 by 3 mate.
plays. I was going to, and it did for a while. Cool backgrounds that the PS5 gives you for
Oh
it, but
no. Black borders, mate. That's the true retro gamers way. 4x3, black borders. That is the way it's meant to be played. I can't believe you went widescreen. All it does is stretch the picture, man. It stretches it. Does not know.
I think it actually like it didn't do too bad on the PS5 anyway.
I think there is a widescreen hack for Metal Gear Solid where it
I
just
think that one is
displays a
purpose,
wee bit more picture in front
not
of
by
you.
much, like, but I know graphically for the time it was released, can't fault it.
I was just interested in what you thought because you know you said you didn't really play it at the time. I remember seeing Metal Gear Solid contemporaneously in 1998, and I remember being blown away by how good looking that game was. I think it's really hard to understand just what Metal Gear Solid did for video game
Yeah.
graphics. Like the whole, even the name Metal Gear Solid is a reference to its graphical style. So Metal Gear Solid was meant to be first person, but
Oh, really?
Hideo Kojima said it's too choppy. It'll make people sick. We can't do that. This console's not powerful enough. And the Solid in Metal Gear Solid means 3D. So getting rid of pixel and going in for polygons and stuff. But man, see that transition from the kind of isometric camera, and then when you push Snake up against the wall, and it just sweeps down
Hmm.
seamlessly between those two viewpoints. And then even when you go into first person view by hitting triangle, the camera pans and then goes into where Snake's head is. It's just. I remember it blew my mind in 1998. I had never ever seen anything like that. Even Final Fantasy VII seemed dated by Metal Gear. It
Yeah.
Hugely, hugely, and
Wow.
even by Final Fantasy VIII came out a year later, and it had actual sort of big looking characters. It was
Yeah.
the movement capabilities of Metal Gear. You know, the
Hmm.
crouching, ducking, diving, all the different stuff that you just seem to actively do, combined with the lighting. The
Yes.
whole atmosphere and lighting in
Yes.
the game felt real. You
Yeah.
know,
It's
was previously a light in a game just had like a yellow circle
circle.
patch, you know, underneath
Yeah.
it. Just, this,
And just
this is
like
light.
Metal Gear Solid had shadows. And it's just like it even just isn't the big things. I mean, I did go into. I love the boss arena for Psycho Mantis. It's the small things, like when you go into the docks to start the game. There's rats running around, and those rats react to you.
Oh
It will
yeah.
run away from you. If you go under the water, it goes into first person, and you see bubbles from
Yeah.
Snake's breath, and the little wavy effect over the camera and that green hue, and it's just an incredible. It was an incredible looking game, but even the fact that during cutscenes, there's no pre-rendered cutscenes. It's all in engine, and it looks. I mean, it looks dated because it's nearly 20, 30 years later. Um, but it still looks good. I mean, the voice acting, the character models are just
Nodding pixels, but I
yeah,
think that some of them have.
but
I
it's
actually think
charming.
Meryl nearly has more of a look
The
than
hand
Snake
movement that she
does. Like,
does, the wee hand movement. But I think even today standard, it's rudimentary and it's primitive. Yes, is it convincing once you drop your barriers that you're playing a very old video game?
PlayStation 1 game, let's face
It's
it, yeah.
very, very, very charming, and I think its primitive looks add to the game in a weird sort of way. I mean, yes, it has everything you'd expect from a PlayStation 1 title. It has texture warping, it has the clipping, it has lots and lots of issues graphically, but it just, for what it was doing at the time, it succeeded in every possible metric. It looked stunning, and it
Yeah.
still looks
It has the
fine.
replayability as well. This is the thing though, like as you say, if you take yourself away from the fact that it's a PlayStation 1 game, it's as we talk about like this on the podcast, the main body at least anyway, about games that sort of defined a generation. And this absolutely did it, and then some. And like the replayability is always there. And I think as we've discovered, sort of as we've chatted through it, there's loads of bits and pieces that we've kind of missed or didn't realize were there to begin
That
with.
existed. Yeah.
And so we're still like, that's 25 years. We're kind of still
It's still
figuring
discovering
stuff
things.
out. Yeah.
Like the big thing I had never noticed before this playthrough was with the FAMAS rifle. Snake will change how he's holding it depending on what his character model's doing. So if he crawls, he'll hold it with both hands. When he's climbing ladders, he'll put it in one hand and then climb
Yeah.
up with the. It's just there's just so many little incidental details in that game that just make it incredible. Just the very even when you throw a chaff grenade, there's like little primitive uh what do you call them?
Chef.
Alpha sort of things with just little dots
Oh,
everywhere,
the
and it
alpha
just
particles. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
looks great, man. Just the whole thing just looks great, and the sound management, the whole thing's just what a masterpiece.
Like it's a movie played out by the player basically.
Yeah, story goes a bit bonkers with it, but
But then I think
we'll let it off.
That
it's
doesn't
Japanese.
change.
When it's a Japanese
Fuck.
production, I think it allows to take a few artistic licenses, we'll say.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that's really is that us on Metal Gear? Is that Metal Gear sufficiently dived deep enough?
I
Is there anything you
think
want to
so.
anything we've missed? Anything anyone else wants to mention?
I would just add cultural impact of
Oh
Metal Gear,
yes,
say in gaming. So you got this tactical espionage, as it says on the cover, but then you got stealth gaming. So then you're getting games like Hitman, and to a
Yeah.
degree Assassin's Creed, and obviously Splinter Cell, and these kind of games that have come
Born
out of
from
that
it, really. Yeah.
DNA.
yeah.
Yeah,
Even contemporaneously, I think if you didn't have Metal Gear Solid, you weren't getting Siphon Filter, you weren't getting Tenchu Stealth Assassins or nothing like that. You just weren't. You weren't even probably like games like Ninja, and that sort of stuff. You were never getting them without Metal Gear Solid. Um, I think as well, Metal Gear Solid pushed. I think honestly it pushed video games as a medium. I think without Metal Gear Solid One, I don't think storytelling in video games would be as
No,
where it is right
you're
now.
kind of just you'll be stuck in kind of 2D, 3D platformers really with no story or no bearing. I think
Yeah.
this is the first and this is probably the earliest I think of my experience in gaming as a whole that has
Hmm.
like an actual narrative
Yeah.
and sort of
Yeah.
characters that you're invested in as well and invested right throughout the franchise as well. So
Uh, it's the
storytelling
first
as a medium, yeah, definitely.
it's the first time I've known a voice actor's name, really, or cared to know that much. And now
In a video.
today, you have award ceremonies like BAFTAs for video games,
Yeah.
and you recognize the people
This
who
is
are
a
up for
benchmark,
awards.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. It's yeah. It left an indelible mark on the video game industry. Metal Gear Solid. I think it's such people always say about how important Mario 64 is. I would say that Metal Gear Solid is the most important game released in this generation of consoles. Its influence reaches so far beyond anything else. It showed that 3D can work for more than just, you know, platformers with
Yeah,
terrible
exactly.
cameras.
Yeah.
It showed that
Yeah,
with a wee bit of thought and planning that camera angles can add to a video game.
Just, I think
It's just
taking risks
brilliant.
as well. I feel as if Hideo had, he has a vision. He knows what he
Mm-hmm.
wants to sort of bring out in this, but he takes a hell of a risk. If this doesn't work,
Mm-hmm.
you can, on the other side of the coin, you could kill you could kill the franchise, you could kill the style of game, you could kill narrative based gameplay if that didn't work. If this sort of experiment, if you want to call it, at the time.
Oh, I mean, it was an experiment. It was a massive experiment.
Hmm.
I was watching a making of video in preparation for this, and to get the camera angle transitions right, Hideo Kojima and his co-creator, like director, created the levels in Lego, and then used rigging for physical cameras to
That
how
makes
can we
sense.
best see this level? How can we transition that if Snake pushes against this wall? How can we move the camera so that it makes sense? It doesn't get stuck on scenery and stuff. Incredible depth and detail to and
Because the camera has
to
to
the
behave as
craft.
if the camera's in the room with them. It
It's
can't just clip through
it was
scenery
still
as it
that
suits. Yeah.
where the camera was a physical box and it had to move around. Yeah, like
wow.
Mario 64, where it gets stuck on everything.
Yeah.
but yeah, I think without Metal Gear, we definitely don't get Splinter Cell. We definitely don't get Hitman. More importantly, we definitely don't get games like The Last of Us without Metal Gear Solid. We just
Mhm.
don't. Even The Last of Us ripped off a lot of stuff that Metal Gear Solid was doing. A lot of stuff. And even just storytelling in video games were like
That's
miles
it.
behind.
Absolutely.
Hideo Kojima, we tip our caps to you, sir. What
Well done, sir.
what a piece of video game craftsmanship you created with Metal Gear. How would you just rate it? Let's keep it nice
uh,
and simple. We'll go from S tier to D tier rather than a score. We'll do it
it's
that
nice.
way.
Okay.
It's such a meta way.
I'm going
I'm
S
getting.
tier. I think it's S tier.
I was gonna give it an A plus review.
There is no A plus. S or A.
Oh, A. We'll go A then.
Fair enough. Cardinal.
Um, I guess logically I have to go S.
Yeah, I think it's an S tier game. I think it's one of the best games ever made.
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
The
Not without
Metacritic score 94
That's it. No games.
justifies
No games
props that up
perfect. No
to.
games without its faults. But I think
not
it's a
without faults.
solid. I think it's a great
Yeah.
start. It's a great start to this new side series, at least anyway.
I think so, mate. I think so. And this is now a series because we are going to be playing a new game every month. And what better time to announce February's game of the month? And it is, of course, the equally as big as Metal Gear Solid. It's Journey. It's Journey. A favorite of mine, to be honest. Spoiler alert.
People I know that play Journey love Journey.
I
This is
am
very
So
much a well acclaimed game.
I think I've beat Journey about 7, 8, 9 times, and I am very much looking forward to beating it again. I cannot wait to play Journey.
well,
So that leaves us then with that brings us to the end of this episode. So it does. There's nothing more to say except that we will see you in the next game of the month episode, which should be end of February time. Trust us, it will come. But anyway, I've been Mr. Luvva Luvva. This has been High Scores, High Stakes. See you next month. Love y'all. Bye.
Bye.
Tack. Bye.